Welcome to another wunderbar Wednesday morning. This morning I'm excited and I don't really know why, but I woke up happy, excited that I was alive and kicking. And driving here, I was listening to that popular song by King Promise featuring Mugiz and Sako the CCTV. I don't know who this message is for or whom I'm supposed to deliver it to, but here it goes. My voice is already halting this morning. Yawanyamibia on Tonko now, no. On the name is CCTV, Debia Neni Wameso. Even if I walk through the valley of death, I know they fear. Every day be jagaido. Maybe that's just a message that you need this morning. You may walk through the valley of death, or you may be going through hell right now, but keep walking, like Sir Winston Churchill will say. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. This is the AM Show. Welcome aboard. Now, coming up, the news will be served to you hot and spicy. And right after that, we'll be joined for the news review by political scientist and head of the European Center at the University of Ghana, Dr. Kwame Asante. He joins us for the news review. Then we get into our big stories, and one of the major matters on our radar this morning, we're going to be contemplating the security situation. You know, on the back of that leaked audio, ostensibly put together, and reflecting on the Ghana Police Service. Look, there have been a lot of comments about it, and we're going to be getting into that bit this morning with our guests. Now, the Minister of Interior has dismissed the plot to oust the Inspector General of Police, George Ekufu Dampare, following that leaked tape. So we're going to be cutting incisively into that this morning as we host our guests. Now, also coming up this morning, we're going to be delving into other matters of national scope. The food suppliers have rejected a part payment to the arrears owed them after a meeting with the Minister for Education, insisting they need full payment in order to pay their indebtedness to their creditors, which keeps soaring. Now, the Buffer Stock Company owes the food suppliers a whopping 270 million Ghana cedis for food supplied to senior high schools across the country. We'll be telling you a lot more about that as we host our guests on that beat as well. Again, how are entrepreneurs coping with their businesses in these challenging times? We'll bring you more on this on AM Business, courtesy EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank. But as always, we'd love to hear from you. So share your thoughts with us. Let us know what's on your mind. Let us know what you think we're doing well, what we're not doing well. And let's do this for God and country. Ghana 4, let's settle for the news. Up next. Welcome on the AM News. We get into our first story now. An Interior Minister, Ambrose Dery, says there's no plot by government or the MPP to remove IGP Dr. George Ekufu Dampare from office. Now, a leaked tape in circulation has a purported senior police officer and some politicians scheming to oust the IGP. Now, speaking to Joy News, Ambrose Dery said the IGP had been exceptional in the delivery of his duties and that there were no efforts to take him out of office. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante now reports.
This leaked tape has set tongues wagging, with some people arguing it has dire security consequence. Interior Minister Ambrose Dery has jumped to the defense of the IGP, insisting he's going nowhere.
I think they should ignore it with the contempt that it deserves. There is no plot to remove anybody. I don't know about anything. As far as I'm concerned, he's doing a good job.
And will you investigate if there is a so-called tape of a certain senior police officer and MPP government officials trying to plot anything of the sort?
Well, I serve my president and I'll do what is policy to bring the development of this country. I'm not sure I want to get involved in any investigation or thing, except that they relate to crime. Then we'll do that. But I think that so far, I think we are doing well.
The minority in parliament are, however, demanding an investigation.
It passes for treason. It is an attempt to subvert the will of the Ghanaian people. The revelations in that audio are very serious. And so, for me, rather than dismiss what is contained in the audio, I think I would urge the Interior Minister to take steps, and very quickly, to get to the bottom of the matter.
Former police officer and MP for Wa West, Peter Lanchini Tobu, says the NDC will resist attempts to rig the 2024 election. He, however, has concerns the tape may have been AI generated.
If somebody thinks that is the Ayawaso West bygone election type of violence that can lead the MPP to break the 8, then it means that we don't want the Fourth Republic. Because anything like Ayawaso West wagon violence, if anything like that surfaces in the 2024 elections, our democracy problem will be gone. Nobody will sit and take that. I've listened to the audio, and it is quite strange. No commissioner worth his salt will do this. I'm tempted to believe that is that application of AI that has generated the voice and have done such a thing. It is dastardly, it is shameful. From a professional background, I think that is an AI generated something just to deceive the public.
So far, what has been lacking is an official commitment to commence an investigation into these claims of a plot to remove IGP Dr. George Ekufu Dampare. The government, through the Interior Minister, is assuring that they are so satisfied with the work. In fact, the minority have also said that they are satisfied with the work he has done so far. There are those who say that they want some more confirmation in terms of the identity of the persons fingered on the tape before they can comment on this publicly. But this is going to be a raging topic at least for the next few days. Reporting for Joy News, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
Well, the Minister for the Interior, Ambrose Dery, also says he is hopeful Parliament will approve an amendment to the Narcotics Control Commission Act. The Supreme Court struck out Section 43 of the bill as unconstitutional. We'll hear from the Minister shortly, but first listen to Deputy Chairperson of the Defense and Interior Committee, Ophelia Mensah, recommending the passage of the amendment.
Mr. Speaker, the committee expressed concern about the inability of the judiciary to consult Parliament before deciding to strike out Section 43 of Act 1019 as unconstitutional. The committee, without prejudice to the recognition of the essence of the doctrine of separation of powers in advancing democratic culture and values, is of the convention that organs of the state need to appreciate that their functions are complementary. Consequently, the three organs of the state should work towards the common conventions. The value of the cannabis industry in the United States of America alone is projected to reach $30 billion annually by 2025, for which reason it has gained increased legislation in other regions. Speaker, there are numerous economic growth opportunities regarding increased tax revenues, job creation, and investment prospects. Mr. Speaker, Ghana should aim to change the narrative of cultivation of cannabis for legal purpose for the benefit of the economy and the health sector. The growth of cannabis could solve the problems of shortages faced by firms that require cannabis for their medical, cosmetic, and industrial needs. Ghana, Mr. Speaker, when positioned properly, could enter the export market by initially targeting the sub-region African market and later the United States of America.
Now, the police at Nyenehin in the Ashanti region have arrested a police corporal for allegedly stealing and causing damage to property. Corporal Lansa Umar, stationed at Assam near Mampong, but on leave, is said to have broken the security door to the house of another police officer and stolen some bags of cement with the help of an accomplice. A resident in the Tre Nyame neighborhood of Nyenehin is said to have heard an unusual noise of the break-in and alerted other neighbors of the robbery incident at about 11 p.m. Ohiming has more in this report.
This man and his accomplice, 25-year-old tricycle rider Mohammed Seidu, are said to have used a pickaxe to destroy and break into a foreign-made security door of the room where 200 bags of cement were being kept. The two fled the scene, leaving a tricycle behind before the arrival of other neighbors who later reported the incident to a police night patrol team. Traces of the tricycle led to the arrest of Seidu, who mentioned Corporal Umar as the other accomplice. He led the police to the home of Umar, who led police to where he kept 12 bags of cement from the crime. Evangelist Richard Ampa witnessed the arrest.
I was at home by 12 a.m. and I got a call that the house that we are working on it, somebody has break it. And I came here, and it is true. The person used pickers to break the China door. It is a very hard door, but he managed to break it. And the cement there was about 55 cement. After investigation, when the police arrived, they suspect him. And at the end of the day, he shows that it is him who took the cement. And he showed the place he has put the cement to.
The arrest of Corporal Lansa Umar has left residents of Nyinahini, including Evangelist Ampa, a mason who works for Umar, shocked. It comes at a time when the area has been recording break-ins.
I know the policeman very well, but I don't know why she did this. I don't expect him to do this. It's very bad. And as at now, I'm confused because as a policeman, you know the laws, the rules and regulations that govern the country. So we have to do it so that you come to arrest us. But for a policeman to still, I have heard it, but I haven't seen it before. But now they have seen that they can do it.
Meanwhile, police sources say the two will be put before court soon. From Nyinahini in the Ashanti region for Joy News, Oyinenteria reporting.
Now, Ghana's greenhouse gas emission is expected to double by 2030, scientists at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology have predicted. The study, led by Dr. Yen Adams Sokama Noyam of the Department of Petroleum Engineering, arrived at this conclusion based on analysis of recent findings. Chief Executive Officer of Coans Estates, Kofi Anchi, says there must be a paradigm shift on this matter.
As a country, we need to fight climate change, and climate change is driven by greenhouse gas emission. We as a country, we have made it our priority to reduce greenhouse gas emission. The government have said it time and over, they are aiming to reduce emission by about 15% by the year 2030, which is a very good ambition. Now, if we decide that we want to reduce emission, first of all, we need to know the emission rate of our country. We need to be able to monitor it. That means we need to have some tools that can help us to monitor, and we need to be able to predict our emission into the future. As a country, we've done well in collecting emission data. From 1990, we have collected a lot of emission data which are in different institutions. Okay. What we did was simply bring these emission data together and try to analyze them to see how our emission has been changing over the years. And then based on that, we use machine learning to try to predict our emission into the near future. And we've done the prediction from 2016 to 2030. And based on the study, actually, if we are going by our current trajectory, our emission is not going to go down by 15% by the year 2030, but rather is going to more than double by the year 2030. So that was what this research was all about. Then another finding that we made was that most of our emission that is coming from the energy sector is coming from the transportation, that is driving of cars and stuff like that. Yeah. Now, the reasons are that most of us use cars. I think as a country, you either have a car or at least you are aiming to buy one. And also, most of our cars are pretty old. Even as a person, I'm using a used car. Most people in Ghana drive used cars, and these cars are not fuel efficient, so they tend to emit more greenhouse gases into the environment. So one solution that we propose is mass transportation. Now, you may propose, for example, electric vehicles, but how many people in Ghana can afford electric vehicles? Do we even have the power to be able to power these cars around? You know, you may propose maybe solar vehicles. That is more realistic, but even that, to what extent can we be able to get this within this time space of, let's say, 2023 to 2030? We will not be able to get that. But we can begin to build infrastructure for mass transportation. We can travel by train. Okay, the government is trying to develop that. So we can invest in these areas and it will help us to reduce emission. Another area we can go is to blend our fuel. Instead of using just the fossil fuels, we can go into biofuels, which we have technology in this institution to produce. And then we blend it with the fossil fuels, and that will reduce emissions as well. So these are some of the areas that we have looked at.
Now, a research fellow at the Center for African Studies, Free State University, South Africa, Dr. Musa Vengana Chibwana, is advocating and urging the Ghanaian youth to step up and take positions of decision-making in the country. Speaking at a citizens' forum on youth democracy, peace and elections organized by the Youth Bridge Foundation, he stressed that in a country whose population was largely youthful, they had to be allowed a space on the decision-making table. There is more in this report.
Ghana's 2020 youth voter population, according to the Electoral Commission, consists of 55.1% of the total voter population. However, this number does not translate into a vibrant youth representation in governance. The Youth Bridge Foundation organized a forum to identify and address the gaps and root causes of youth marginalization in governance, identify and address the symptoms of underlying governance and democratic deficit, and to provide policy advice on responsible youth participation in democracy, elections and promotion of peace. Speaking at the forum, a research fellow at the Center for African Studies, Dr. Musa Vengana Chibwana, advocated the inclusion of many youth in leadership positions.
Forward. Who is this young person? I have put before you several attributes of this Ghanaian young person who should be able to take the democracy of Ghana forward, who should be able to preserve the peace, independence, and solidarity of this Ghana forward. Who is this young person? This young person is confident. Confident to stand for office to start with. But it's good to want to be president. You have to be confident, you have to believe in yourself. The statistics that we're hearing here from the Electoral Commission are very concerning. Young people are the ones who are voting, 78%, I wrote this down. Young people are the king makers, but they're not kings. That's concerning. You're making kings, but you're not the kings. You're not in parliament, but you're making parliamentarians. You're making councillors, but you're not any. That's concerning. You're not on the ballot paper. That's worrisome. Even if a young person is on the ballot paper, fellow young people will not vote for them. Because they look at them and say, they don't have experience. But how do you get the experience until you get a chance? Come on, give fellow young people a chance by voting for them. Have confidence in fellow young people.
He further urged the youth to be committed to integrity even at the very tender age, and believes that it is the only way to curb the pandemic of corruption plaguing the African continent.
You have to commit that whatever you shall do, you love your country so much to be corrupt. You shall not be corrupt. One of the things we are contending with on the continent is we are losing a lot of resources through unscrupulous ways. People are digging out our gold and they are flying out with our gold without paying a dime, without paying anything. Corruption is rife in some of our countries on the continent. I pray it's not so in Ghana. But as young people, you need to commit that I shall not be corrupt. Can I hear you say that? In fact, start by saying it now. Say, I'm not corrupt. Yeah, so you should not be the one who pays those bribes.
Now, the former Minister for Zango Development, Dr. Mustafa Hamid, has called for strong reforms in curricula and methods of teaching in the Islamic Educational Center in Ghana. According to him, this is to help meet advancements in modern education that will lead to a transformation among Zango communities. He made this known at the National Conference in Islamic Education in Accra.
According to some Islamic scholars, the current teaching and learning methods in Islamic schools, from basic to tertiary, only seeks to promote the learning of the Quran, but does not build the capacities of students in other fields, including engineering, mathematics, and accounting. This has over the years stalled the progress of the Muslim youth and other Muslim communities. It is against this background that the World Muslim Communities Council, in collaboration with Talim Ghana, is holding the Islamic Teaching and Learning Conference in Accra to develop new curriculum to meet modern trends. In an interview with Joy News, the former Zango Development Minister, Dr. Mustafa Hamid, explained that there is an urgent need to reform the current teaching and learning methods in the Islamic schools to meet the curricular system of education.
Minister responsible for Muslim communities in Ghana. And I know that we have a challenge. Now I am no longer minister, but I carry the pain in my heart and I want to do something to continue to help the development of Muslim communities in Ghana. And I would be very happy if the World Muslim Communities Council would help to partner me for us to continue to engage.
On his part, the head of school translators at the Ghana Institute of Languages, Dr. Abdallah Mustafa Abdallah, highlighted the need for reforms and the challenges in Islamic education.
They may have a vehicle to go around to do inspection. They don't have it. They need books. They need TLMs. So all these things are needed. And finally, the universities, all the universities needed certain teaching and learning material like computers, projectors. So if Talim Ghana can partner with World Muslim Communities and get some projectors, computers, and distribute it among all the tertiary institutions in Ghana, it will go a long way to help Arabic education in Ghana.
Karen Obin's report read to you.
Now, the Chief Executive Officer of COAN's Estates, Kofi Anchi, says there must be a paradigm shift from borrowing for consumption to borrowing for investment that yields financial returns for the country. Speaking in an interview, the entrepreneur urged the government to find more lasting solutions to the country's economic malaises rather than run to the IMF.
There are certain things we need to do because we can't continue to live like this forever. Okay, the IMF conditionalities, they are good, but they are for short term. There are so many things we need to do as a country and as a people, without which we will go and come back again. We need to take the right decision. I don't know the terms and conditions that were associated with the money, but the most important thing is industrialization, ensuring that the private sector gets the necessary momentum to be able to make sure that we move forward. Those monies which were given to us, if it is for, say, whatever project that we decided to go for that money for, we have to make sure that the project is self-sustained, or is yes, it is self-sustainable after the expiration of the IMF period. That is one mistake we've done. We go for money to borrow money. We come and build bridges. We don't take how do you call it, tools. We don't find a way to pay them back so that we can ensure that these loans that we went for are in fact beneficial. When you go to the US and other places, George Washington bridges and other things, they were built over so many years. They still take tools. So we go for money, we borrow monies. At the end of the day, we use the money for anyhow things which are not productive, to put it. But you don't go for money, and then unless it's a grant.
Well, that's how we cap off the news. The news review is up next Tuesday. Welcome on the AM News Review. Always exciting. And we're joined by Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. He is Director of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. I'll be going to him shortly, but we all know that this segment, as always, is brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. What are they offering you watching me this morning? Well, if you're a man, prostate screening, and it's never too early to check once you hit your late 20s, early 30s, because back then it used to be in your 50s, 60s. Now it's not the same. And we of black extraction, if I may put it that way, are particularly susceptible. There are things that Caucasians are susceptible to. There are things that we are susceptible to. Prostate disease is one that's scientifically proven we are susceptible to. So make tracks to Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. They're offering that to you for free. If you're a woman, fertility screening, do you know your fertility status? You also get screening for free. Here's where you can locate Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. Here in Accra, they are at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. In Kumasi, Krodomabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrady Anaje Estate when you come back to the Greater Accra region, Tema Community 22. Then there's Tichima and Hanswa and Siama and Zema. If you'd like to call them, these are the numbers. 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But just the start of the news review. Doc, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Ben.
How has the Wednesday treated you so far? It's a wet morning.
I think it promises to be a good day. We are poised for action. We are ready to work. I'm already at City Campus, ready to teach after the program. So I'm ready.
Awesome, awesome. I remember my days in the political science department. You were one early bird, so I'm not surprised you are there already. So right after this, you'll be going to spew some knowledge from the spigot of your vast sources. Anyway, so let's get into the papers. But before we do, Doc, I always give you the opportunity to share your thoughts with us on matters of national scope. A lot has happened within the last week since we interacted, but especially what is making the rounds now, that leaked tape, ostensibly with some people very high up in the police echelons, together with some politicians, plotting ostensibly to oust the IGP, the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Ekufu Dampare, because on the back of what had happened in Asin North with what he had done, there wouldn't be a means of stealing the election in 2024. The Interior Minister, Ambrose Dery, has said it is not true, it is not factual, but members of the minority are saying, probe this matter because we can't sweep it under the carpet. It's a security matter of dire concern and consequences, and we will resist any attempts at saying, your take.
Yeah, Ben. Except of this, I realize that I want to share in the view of the minority that you can't just throw this away. You need to subject it to some form of analysis and then come out with something and let's see. Because you see, all these things come out from the fact that we have the executive that appoints the IGP and some of the service commanders. It is not a good practice because then it gives the appointing authority to want to, get them out anytime they feel so. That is not to say that this one, the executive has a hand in that and all that, but I support the call of minority that this thing needs to be looked into so that we don't create fear and panic within the top brass of the police service. That has a lot of responsibility for us. Remember that we have criticized the police time and again for their inability to do certain things. Now that you are getting them through their leader to do a lot of things that, to the admiration of many, people want to find an orthodox means of getting him out of office. I think that's unfair. It's not proper. So we need to be careful about this and then go into it. I'll urge the government not to discount it, take it, get a neutral body to look into the matter and then come out with the findings so that you can settle this issue once and for all. We should also know
Hello, Doc.
Expect them to do is what? Nothing but. Hello? Yes.
Yes, we lost you briefly. Go ahead. We lost you briefly.
When we put people in position, of authority, such as the position of the IGP, we expect them to work. So when they are working, I don't see why it should be a problem for any human being, unless, of course, you want to undermine the very system that we want to develop and protect. So I think, all in all, we need to look into this matter and look deeper and find those who want to, subvert the system, and then speak to them the way the law have to deal with them. That's all.
There's also this bit, if I may just go to that conversation on PM Express yesterday, where in fact Dr. Kennedy Afriyie, who is an astute politician from the MPP end and who wants to be president as well, has said, and since this is, political science, smack down the alley of political science, he says he feels betrayed by this government on the back of happenings, how he was ousted. Then he claims that he can run his administration with no more than 40 ministers. And even more poignantly, he says, for this government, we have never had a circumstance under which we dipped so low. We've never had a circumstance under which we dipped so low. I can run my administration with no more than 40 ministers, and I feel betrayed by this government. How do you react to Dr. Kennedy Afriyie's comments? You know him very well.
Yes. Yesterday, I listened to the tail end of the conversation, and it was refreshing to hear from him, especially somebody from the MPP, a stalwart like him. It is nothing but an admission of the reality on the ground that the government in this tenure has not performed well at all. The economy has not been managed properly, because he did say about if we were to do things right, we wouldn't be where we are. It tells you, it speaks volume of the fact that the economy has been mismanaged. The issue he talked about, lean government, is also refreshing, because this is something that people have said time and again, but governments decide.
We seem
now,
to have...
everybody won't give up. If given the opportunity, they will be able to reduce the size of government. Yes, at this stage, I want to take it as a mere talk. But when they get power, that is where we hold their feet to the fire of accountability. So his proposal of having a 40-size government, yes, it's welcome, but I still believe that we can do with 19. I have maintained that position. We don't need deputy ministers. We need 19 as the cabinet, as the constitution says, to satisfy that requirement for cabinet. And then out of the 19, you will pick 16 as a regional minister. So what it means is that one person would double as a regional minister and as a cabinet minister. That's it. It can be done. 19. How can't you govern with 19, but you want 40 or 54? I disagree. But it's a bold attempt. I want to see how they work these things out when they are giving the nod. But we as a society must find lasting solution to this, because they will come to office and then tell you that, yes, we underestimated the situation and that we are sorry. We have to go back to a certain number and all that. Let us find a lasting solution. And the lasting solution is that let us amend a portion of the constitution and put in black and white that any government that will be formed in this republic will have members, the executive, made up of 17, 19, or 20 ministers, so that that debate, that promise and broken promises will cease once and for all.
Thank you so much for your initial thoughts on these matters. Let's get into the daily graphic newspapers now. Legislators receive gratuity, not ex gratia. Speaker of Parliament clarifies. That story is on page 13 of the paper. There is graphic APSA deepen business relations. Then autism, not death warrant. GT Bank rolls out major intervention, and it is indeed major. On the back page, Zoom Lion assemblies disinfest Eastern region, and Burkinabe asylum seekers to be resettled in Taricom. Those are the stories there. Let's get into this one about autism before we go to the legislators' saga. So, when Elizabeth Aqua Bertino found out that her son, young Phil Bertino, was an autistic child, it was too bitter a pill to swallow. Being the first child of the Bertinos, he was their treasure and they had big ambitions for him. So, when his speech started to deteriorate at age 2, they went to great lengths to restore it. In a desperate search for solutions to young Phil's condition, the parents visited hospitals and prayer camps for solutions, but to no avail. Finally, when it was confirmed at the National Assessment Center at Achimota in Accra that Phil was suffering from autism, I felt terrible, Mrs. Bertino told the Daily Graphic. Well, with the spectrum of disorders ranging from weak attention span, sensory, cognitive, speech-language communication to behavioral and sociability, it became a daunting task to manage Phil, now 16. His parents went to great lengths to seek information about the condition, invested in therapy, and offered superior care that have helped transform young Phil into a global icon. Quoting her, she says, Phil is a swimmer, a pianist, tennis player, basketball player, and above all, the best professional autistic cyclist in the whole of Africa. Now, here's where GT Bank comes in. To support parents and caregivers to deliver similar care, Guarantee Trust Bank Limited, that is GT Bank Ghana, in collaboration with its parent company, Guarantee Trust Holding Company, has rolled out a 2 million Ghana cedi corporate social responsibility project to build the capacity of caregivers, parents, and teachers of autistic children. It's the banner headline in the Daily Graphic, but I'm not just highlighting it because of that. I'm highlighting it because I really am concerned about how access to the sort of care that those who are autistic, those who suffer from the other spectrum of diseases, get in Ghana. There are so many of them. Those with Down syndrome, those who suffer autism, those with other, illnesses on the spectrum. There was a time, Doc, when I volunteered at the New Horizon Special School in Cantonments, and I served there for a number of weeks. I raised funds. I was in the University of Ghana back then. I raised funds from my colleague students to help them to get the things they need, mops, detergents, a number of things I did over the time, over that period. I believe I raised over 2,000 Ghana cedis back then, and it really helped, but we don't pay so much attention to this. Any reflections on this story?
I've said it better than what you have done. Because I also follow these stories with keen interest. I had a child who suffered from cerebral palsy. So I know what I went through for the 5 years that he lived. I went through hell. And there was no place to tend to. At a point in time, we were supposed to go to Nigeria to have a scan which was not available in Ghana. I don't want to. But what we have to do as a people is that we build support systems and then build a capacity of parents, teachers, and people who take care of them. That is the way to go. You have, some of these people at the university, for instance, University of Ghana, and I'm happy and I commend the UJ for the support they give them. They come to class and we call them the special needs, students with special needs.
Right.
They give them all manner of attention. And that is, I'm so proud to see that. And you have some of them performing so well in the class. It means that when everybody is given opportunity, you'll be able to come out in flying colors. The potentials are there, but the capacity, the resources to support this venture is always the problem. But I don't see why it should be a problem. If we prioritize our issues well, it should be a thing of the past. Support them. And what God has given to them in terms of their potential will come out.
You couldn't have said it any better. On a day like this, those whom I know who are doing exceedingly well as parents. The other one's name I forget, but Genevieve Partington comes to mind, and how they take care of their children with special needs. For those parents out there who are doing so well, brilliantly well, with children with special needs. Here in this country, sometimes You have a child with special needs and people suggest all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Not even wanting them to live. But there are parents out there who are doing an amazing job. Genevieve Partington is one of them. And if someone is watching, please let her know that I'm shouting her out for the amazing job she's doing with her kids. Now, legislators received gratuity, not ex gratia. That's according to the Speaker of Parliament. Let's quickly get to that story here on page 13. And the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbin, has reiterated the money paid to members of Parliament every 4 years is accumulated salary arrears or gratuity, not ex gratia. Now, he said at the beginning of every Parliament, most legislators, including himself as the Speaker, did not know the exact salary they were entitled to until the end of their 4-year term, a practice he described as wrong. And I agree with him. It is wrong. He explained that whenever Ghanaians talked about budgeting for Parliament, they considered such budget as money earmarked for salaries and conditions of service of MPs. Quote, especially what people refer to as ex gratia. But he says, gratuity is different from ex gratia. What they pay MPs is gratuity, and it is another wrong practice because as we sit here in our 3rd year, which is 3 years down, as the Speaker, do not know my salary, he revealed. This is a major problem. And he says, my salary has not yet been fixed, and so every month I am paid something based on what my predecessor was earning. And this is what leads to that phenomenon. And we'll all be talking about ex gratia and the huge sums at the end of every 4 years, every cycle that we pay our members of Parliament. What do you make of what the Speaker is saying? I've always found a problem with this. And what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think I also have a problem with it, and I share in his pain. That why is it that you have given me a job to do, and I will not know how much I should receive in terms of what reward for the work that I do. It's wrong. You have to let me know. If I'm comfortable, I'll continue with it. So my understanding is that they just go in there, work without necessarily knowing what to be expected. Even if people are giving them something less than what is supposed to be given to them, they will not know. So that's unfair. You keep them in the dark whilst they also serve their country and serve their country well. The issue of ex gratia is a big one because we don't tend to understand. So we confuse the issue, and I'm happy that the Speaker has come out clearly to give us pointers as to how we can, appreciate some of this issue. Last time I picked up this conversation with a friend, and because I also did not understand, and I was made to know that, look, when we talk about ex gratia, we are saying that you have done a piece of work, and this is what we give to you as handshake, if you like, take home. All right. It is not something that is received every year or at all times, but something that in appreciation of what you have done. So we have to look at it carefully because we try to confuse the issue and create the impression that our MPs only are out there to milk the state dry and all that, forgotten about the fact that they also serve their society and serve them well. I, as a reporter, when I was working in Parliament, I got closer to them and I realized the suffering that they go through. But hey, they can't share their pain with anybody. So they live with it and then they move on. So I'm happy the Speaker has broken the jinx and has come out to set the record straight.
Let me just look at this message. Atakofi says, good morning, please. I think the police must not have a political direction. That's what you say. On the back of that initial, bit I threw to you, Doc, in respect of that leaked tape ostensibly talking about ousting the IGP. Well, let's quickly look at some other stories and then say goodbye to the Daily Graphic newspaper and move on to other papers. On page 17, there is a bit of a perspective there. Harnessing female participation in student leadership. And I would extend it and say national leadership. We have too few of them. Look at the members of Parliament, 20 on both sides, NDC, NPP. How do we up the numbers? And it all starts from the tertiary level as well. And we see a number more of them contending, but sometimes they never get to the very heights of it. For example, SRC presidents and all of that. We always feel they should be vice or secretary and things like that. There's also MPP flag bearership. Kwabena Ejapong launches campaign. I listened to him. I was going to the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park yesterday. I went there, beautiful place, and I salute the president for the work he's done there. And I was listening to Kwabena Ejapong, and I felt a lot of what he was saying actually made sense. Sometimes our politicians say a lot of sense when they're not in power, and then when they come to power, there's a whole lot. But I felt a lot of what he was saying made sense. I don't know whether you listened to him and what your take would be on what his strategy would be for the country Ghana.
I think I listened with him. I listened to him with rapt attention.
Right.
He made a lot of sense to me. And one bit about his speech was the fact that he was so bold and came out clearly about things that are worrying him.
And he admitted that a lot of things had gone wrong in this administration.
Yes. And for me, I salute him for that. For him, as a member of the party, saying that, yes, it is true that we have chalked some successes, but there are problems that we need to address. The problem of the economy, that today we find ourselves at the doorstep of the IMF. I think that there should be a new order, that new faces must come in to rescue the country from this economic doldrum we find ourselves. That's refreshing. But there are things I took home and I want to share in respect to what we are discussing. One is that he talks about the fact that we need new faces to change the system.
Right.
Because the same people who have pushed us to the IMF cannot be the same people
getting us out
to be giving power and then run the affairs of the state again. I agree, but I disagree at the same time.
Okay.
Why? Every member of any political party, it is your duty to, volunteer ideas, share ideas with your party. So whether you are in government or outside it, you owe it a duty to the party to share information, ideas with the party.
I guess pardon my intervention. I guess the problem is usually they would tell you that, look, from where I sit, I share the ideas, but no one listens to me. Think of Professor Frimpong Boateng and his purported report that never saw the light of day until it was leaked. And that wasn't even the only report he had presented on that. So a lot of them will tell you, it's not that we don't do these things, but no one listens to us.
But the issue is that a reality? Because sometimes we hide behind these things that, we shared ideas and nobody listened. And if we want to share ideas within political parties, it's not verbal. You write it and copy relevant people so that people will know that your contribution has been made. That is not to say that Mr. Ejapong did not, but is that the case? I want to know that, because when you're talking about new faces that we need, where are those people? All right, they are virtually coming from the party, and it's the same party which is in government that has mismanaged the economy. So is it the case that Ghanaians want just a new set of people, or they want the government, a new government to come in? That is where the question is. It's not the new faces, but that people believe that the government has misperformed and that they don't need the government. So you need to convince the people more with very strong arguments. The issue of also you talk about values and principles, that people, the delegate must vote along these lines. Great ideas. I love that. But the issue is that it's coming too late in the day, in the sense that before you want voters, or for that matter, the delegate, to be able to do stuff along these lines, you need the political socialization to be strong within the party, to inculcate the values, the principles that you want them to uphold at all times. You need to have done this work long time, so that by this time, as soon as you remind them, what you say will be a reminder, then they are home and dry. But if you have not done that and you want it at the 11th hour, you may be disappointed. He talks about issue of putting a cap on the Supreme Court. You recall that I've said it time and again, that I don't understand why the US, of all powerful states, have only 9 judges, and we have 15 and still counting. What is it that we have that the US doesn't have? What is it that we have experienced that the US has not experienced, that we want to have more Supreme Court judges than them? So I'm happy that this thing is gaining grounds, and people have reasoned through that they find it important to advocate on this along these lines. It's a great one. He talks about also the issue of cutting waste, and I am also happy and I support him on that call, because just look through Auditor General reports. It is replete with stories of what financial waste, financial malpractices and all that. So if you have a leader who said that I'm going to tackle this, tied it up to what the mighty and almighty corruption,
right,
and then link it up to what law enforcement, then I am with you. But as to whether that will influence the choices of the delegates, I can't say much.
All right.
He knows his party well, and then we hope and pray that they go along these lines. That will help this country.
Doc, we have 3 minutes. The headlines I'm about to run by you, these are matters we've discussed, so I'll just gloss over them, and then I'll focus on certain ones that I'll let you share your thoughts on. Republic Press says, no plans to hack IGP. Government indicates as leaked tape causes stir. Then there's a bit about Kwabena Eje Japon. Jachikwation's motions shot down as well. The Ghanaian publisher says, Koya Dagbang Forum fight hate speech. And these are the matters I want you to focus on. So, government settles outstanding coupons, principal payments to bondholders. That story is on page 4 of the Finder newspaper. And the government has settled all outstanding coupons and principal payments up until June 19, 2023, due to the bondholders, while instructions have also been sent for payment of coupons falling due up until July the 10th, 2023. You know, they've been picketing the finance ministry over the delays, and at least we talk about it. So if government has done something about it, we ought to mention that as well. There is also NDC MPs pile pressure, boycott house over court cases. I want to know what your thinking is on the members of parliament from the minority end not going to parliament on the back of those happenings. Then on page 6, there is bloodbath, quote, in Techiman South NDC. A violent altercation between members of the NDC broke out in the Techiman South constituency of the Bono East region. The conflict was purportedly sparked by internal party polls, when a brutal attack was unleashed on party members who were expressing their dissent regarding the handling of the internal polls. That's according to the Daily Guide. And finally, Economy Times. World Bank saves VCTF with $40 million. I'm talking about the Venture Capital Trust Fund, with an amount of $40 million after the government had failed to allocate funds to the trust for a couple of years now. So far, the World Bank has disbursed $16 million out of the $40 million for further on lending to small and medium enterprises operating in the areas of agriculture, health, and education through its fund managers. We can't manage anything as a country, can we? Quick thoughts, Doc, and we're gone.
The conflict between NDC members in Bono is unfortunate, and especially when people are exchanging blows or there's violence because people will suppress dissent of this. Governance without dissent is a joke, right? Because we have every right to express our opinions, however painful it may be. You also must develop the thick skin to be able to accommodate this. And that is a mark of a Democrat.
Right.
If people don't know this, they should learn this. And then the next one is that the issue of NDC members boycotting Parliament. Strategies, there are so many strategies that MPs employ to achieve their aim in Parliament. Yes, you can. But the question is, how sustainable would that be? Would they be in court forever? A time will come, they cannot be there. They will come back to Parliament. So let's give them time to support their member. But I know that very soon they will rise to Parliament and continue the work. It's a matter of time.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. And your students are blessed to have you, for sure.
Thank you. I'm also grateful for the opportunity. Thank you.
Dr. Kwame Asante is a political scientist at the University of Ghana. He is also the director of the Center for European Studies. The segment always brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. They're offering free prostate screening if you're a man, free fertility screening if you're a woman. Locate them here in Accra at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. They can also be located in Tema Community 22. There's Kumasi Kronomabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. They are also in Takrade and Aje Estates. Then there's Techiman Hanswa and Esiama and Zima. You can reach them on 0244 867-068 or 0274-234-321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. The end to chronic disease. Bringing us to the end of the news review, but just the start of sports. We have a lot of action coming your way in our sporting segment. Don't miss a beat. We'll be right back.
Thank you for staying with us on the AM show. I'm Gary Al Smith, and this is The Sport. Flag bearer hopeful of the new Patriotic Party, Kwabena Ejipong, has called for an improved collaboration between the Ghana Football Association and the government to save the declining industry. He also called for better use of resources and the creation of a deliberate policy to revive the passion of the game in the country. Ejipong spoke at his campaign launch in Accra.
I think we should have a deliberate policy of creating or recreating the passion that we have for sports. I mean, sports, football is a spectator sport. You can't have the sport successfully when there's nobody in the stadium. Of course, there's competition now because of satellite television and everybody has access to the Premier League outside and all that. But it doesn't stop governments from being very deliberate about it, to support our team. And I'll give you one example. Ghana has been to previous World Cups, I think 4 or so over the last 5 times. The money that we made, it never filtered down to where it matters most, Cole's football, which should be a production line of talent. And that is what we have been used to. I cannot, for the life of me, understand why members of executive committees or members of Black Stars management committees can apportion to themselves $100,000 each just for being members of that committee. And when clubs don't have money to pay their players, Premier Division clubs. So we need to have a sit down with the stakeholders. It's very important. And in times past, we had a system that used to work. Strong collaboration between the football teams and their local communities and also the government. The government represents the community. You cannot take government away from football administration. I was totally against that attempt. And I forewarned them in 2006 when it was being done. But they didn't listen. And now look at where we have landed. I think we should have a stakeholder discussion, go back to the basics, the things that used to work for us, the collaboration between GALCA, which is the clubs, associations, and the government who provide the resources that we need to build the facilities and support our footballers. It is not right that your taxpayers' money will be used to support the Black Stars to go to the World Cup, but then when they make money out of the World Cup, it is not accounted to us, the Ghanaians. And then the whole ladder, the hierarchy of football never gets to a share in what we get out of these World Cups.
Moving on, and German international Antonio Rudiger paid a visit to Ghanaian lower league side Shooting Stars FC ahead of the club's 2023 Euro Tour. Rudiger took the chance to urge the GFN government to build more facilities to improve the sport.
In general, build facilities, build the system of football, and then so that those young boys can one day be in the best teams in Europe. So, but this comes all down to organization. So now we talk higher up. So that's why I don't know how the system goes here. But at the end of the day, still you see a lot of Ghanaian talents in Europe and around. So I think that's the goal.
Let me push you this one. You've been at Cuban, you've been at Madrid, and everything. What were the steps that you saw? What are the things that you've seen that you think we can inculcate here in our system to also help us?
Clear is organization. Organization is key to everything.
A message to Chelsea fans and Real Madrid fans. A message to them. Let me just one time. Here's a message to them. A lot of them are in Ghana here. Trust me, you have a lot of fans. So to Madrid fans and to your former team, Chelsea.
No, to my former team, like everyone knows, Chelsea has been special to me. 5 years there, win the Champions League, and Real Madrid, Hala Madrid, love all.
Thank you.
Simple, Hala Madrid, and love to Chelsea as well. Executive Council member of the Ghana Football Association, Randy Abbey, has defended Keto Kraku's address at the 29th Ordinary Congress. The FA president enumerated his achievements since taking over the job in 2019, but his detractors have accused him of being political at the event. Abe says those assertions are misplaced.
I think it's been good. It's been good, quite orderly. I think I've enjoyed it, and I think that some of our colleagues are maybe still used to the old way of doing things. Like, for example, trying to raise a counter proposal on the floor. I mean, since we changed the rules and everything is clear. I mean, there's a reason why you're giving the documents 14 days prior to the Congress, and the rules are clear. I mean, if you have any counter, you need to submit it in writing to the General Secretary.
But what many have taken from the President's speech, it looks like more of a campaign sort of speech. You agree with that?
He has to account for his stewardship. So unless we're saying that the things that he spoke about, he's not done them. I mean, this is not the first Congress that he's come to. You understand me? And that is spoken about things that the FA intends doing. I mean, so there are advantages and disadvantages of incumbency. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Yeah, so if there are advantages, he will get them. If there are disadvantages, he will suffer them. You know, so I don't think so. I think that everybody expects him to, one, account for his stewardship, and two, to also tell us what the FA intends doing moving forward. Okay. And that's exactly what is done. Okay. Yeah.
To national team football, the Black Queens have landed in Conakry ahead of their qualifier against Guinea, and it's in a bid to get a place at the next round of the 2024 Paris Olympics for the qualifiers. Head coach Nora Hoptail says the pressure to qualify is good for the team and assures they are committed to securing a spot at the global tournament. Lawrence Beidou has more.
Ghana will play Guinea in Conakry on Friday in the first leg of the first round of qualifiers and held their final training session on Monday before leaving Accra on Tuesday. With the Black Meteors failing to book a ticket for the men's side, Nora says the team is under no pressure ahead of Friday's game.
For me, pressure is a privilege because, first of all, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. We want to go and qualify for the Olympics. Of course, we recognize that our under-23 men, they cannot anymore qualify, which I feel sorry for them. And we take this challenge and face it. Yeah.
Do you think you have the materials to qualify?
Yes, when you look the draw, I mean, of course, you also saw a bit the draw. I think the first steps are very makeable. Somehow we're going to face Zambia, somewhere we're going to face Morocco. They are part of the World Cup, who is beginning in 2 weeks. So it will be not an easy route, but I'm pretty convinced with the quality of players we have and a lot of amount of matches until then that we have the chance to qualify us, yes.
Linda Eshen, who has been a core part of the team in the last few years and serves as one of the captains in camp, also expressed confidence in the squad called up by the head coach. Linda believes the appointment of the Swiss has been good for the national team so far.
We haven't considered any goal, which is perfect. So that means we are doing well. We are listening to the coach. We watch videos. Our mistakes, we correct the simple things. So I think the Black Queens is doing well. Black Queens will go into the game perfect, and Black Queens will get their maximum 3 points.
The Black Queens have not played at the Olympic Games since its introduction, and the current crop of players are hoping that narrative is changed at the end of the qualifiers.
That's it for the sport. Thank you very much for your time. As ever, you can head over to myjoyonline.com sports page and get some more from us.
This leaked tape has set tongues wagging, with some people arguing it has dire security consequence. Interior Minister Ambrose Dery has jumped to the defense of the IGP, insisting he's going nowhere.
I think they should ignore it with the contempt that it deserves. There is no plot to remove anybody. I don't know about anything. As far as I'm concerned, he's doing a good job.
And will you investigate if there's a so-called tape of a certain senior police officer and MPP government officials trying to plot anything of the sort?
Well, I serve my president and I'll do what is policy to bring the development of this country. I'm not sure I want to get involved in any investigation or thing, except that they relate to crime. Then we'll do that. But I think that so far, I think we are doing well.
The minority in parliament are, however, demanding an investigation.
It passes for treason. It is an attempt to subvert the will of the Ghanaian people. The revelations in that audio are very serious. And so, for me, rather than dismiss what is contained in the audio, I think I would urge the Interior Minister to take steps, and very quickly, to get to the bottom of the matter.
Former police officer and MP for Wa West, Peter Lanchini Tobu, says the NDC will resist attempts to rig the 2024 election. He, however, has concerns the tape may have been AI generated.
If somebody thinks that is the Ayawaso West bygone election type of violence that can lead the MPP to break the 8, then it means that we don't want the Fourth Republic. Because anything like Ayawaso West wagon violence, if anything like that surfaces in the 2024 elections, our democracy probably will be gone. Nobody will sit and take that. I've listened to the audio, and it is quite strange. No commissioner worth his salt will do this. I'm tempted to believe that is that application of AI that has generated the voice and have done such a thing. It is dastardly, it is shameful. From a professional background, I think that is an AI generated something just to deceive the public.
So far, what has been lacking is an official commitment to commence an investigation into these claims of a plot to remove IGP Dr. George Ekufu Dampare. The government, through the Interior Minister, is assuring that they are so satisfied with the work. In fact, the minority have also said that they are satisfied with the work he has done so far. There are those who say that they want some more confirmation in terms of the identity of the persons fingered on the tape before they can comment on this publicly. But this is going to be a raging topic, at least for the next few days. Reporting for Joy News, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
Well, that is the conversation we're having to kickstart the big stories on the AM show this morning. It has to do with that security situation, that ostensible plot, ostensibly to oust the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Ekufu Dampare. Now, we're going to be getting into the nitty-gritty of this matter, and we have joining the conversation this morning Professor Kwesi Enning, Director, Faculty of Academic Affairs and Research at the Kofi Anchi International Peacekeeping Training Center. Prof, it has been eons. It is so good to have you this morning joining us for this conversation. Good morning. Can you hear me, Professor Enning?
Yes, let me say a very good morning to you and thank you for having me.
It's really good to have you. Now, let's go for the jugular. This came as quite a surprise on the back of some of what was said on this leaked tape, on the back of the things that were described, on the back of what ostensibly suggests that a high-ranking member of the Ghana Police Service is involved, and that some politicians are also involved. The whole rhetoric of the Asin North by-election, the heavy police presence, and how people were not allowed to do or engage in nefarious activity, so to speak. But in terms of this leaked tape, which we still have to substantiate is real, what do you make of it? That's my initial comment to you. What do you make of it?
Well, for me, it doesn't come as a surprise. It doesn't come as a surprise because when Dr. Dampare was appointed, first, that appointment raised a lot of heckles. That's number one. Number two, his style of inclusive, civil, dialogic leadership, mature, focused, no nonsense, and objective leadership, meant that he made a lot of enemies very quickly. The combination of those who didn't want him because of his honesty and his vision for the service, combined with the internal, structural, institutional problems within the service that he sought to change, meant that Dr. Dampare had made a lot of enemies right from the word go. He then went ahead and got a couple of heavyweights arrested, right from the religious spectrum to the political spectrum. How has Dr. Dampare survived? Because he's been neutral and has done what a police officer must do, focusing on the vision and the mission of his service, which is to provide protection for lives and property. So the shenanigans around whether he should stay or not and why he shouldn't stay doesn't come to me as a surprise. However, and I think I like your introductory point about authenticating the voice on the tape, whether it is a deep fake tape, sort of throwing a red herring out there to see how the public will respond to a possible removal of Dr. Dampare. Now, if it's a red herring, I prefer the black herring because if it's a black herring, then we need to go out and say who generated this deep fake voice that resembles somebody's voice within the service, creating animosity at the very top, because there are just about 20 or so commissioners of police. Okay, so whatever it is, we need to get to the bottom of it. Even if it's a deep fake tape, somebody has an ulterior motive in creating disaffection among the commissioners against a particular person if he didn't do it, but also in testing both the political and the general public perception of Dr. Dampare. I know where I stand when it comes to the Inspector General of Police. Prior to and from the day he was appointed, I've been a strong Damparist because he's shown leadership, he's shown a capacity to respond very quickly when there are changes that need to be made within the service. As a human institution and as a human being, would he have made decisions that people don't like? Certainly. That is the hallmark of a good leader. So we can put that part of the conversation on the back burner for a split second and raise these fundamental questions that I've asked earlier on. What is it good for? Were this tape to be fake? That those who put it out in the public domain wish to achieve. And it is that point that we need the National Intelligence Bureau, if they cannot do it, to get their partners to help us to unravel this problem.
I mean, there's the National Intelligence Bureau, the Signals Bureau, all of them working, whether internally or externally, as far as our national security is concerned. But you've broached a very interesting subject. I've been asking myself, who would benefit from this? Whether the tape was doctored or otherwise, whether it proves to be true, who would benefit from this? Yesterday, I was in a certain place where a commissioner of police, who retains his title, of course, though retired, shared a few thoughts on this matter. It makes for very interesting reading. And I'm asking myself, look, I hope it's fake, but if proven to be true, what then does this say about the Ghana Police Service itself, those in the high echelons of the Ghana Police Service, and even the other members of the executive? I'm talking here about the political elements and everything we know. Now, look at it this way, Prof. The Economic or Economist Intelligence Unit has said that, look, it's likely the opposition will come to power in 2024. That has been corroborated by other, I believe it is Fitch, that also said that. Would this be too far-fetched if some assumed that there was too much smoke to think that there would be no fire?
Probably it's not just smoke, it's also sometimes smoke and mirrors, but without fire. And therein lies my point once more. We don't need EIU and Fitch to tell us how people feel in this country. I've consistently argued that we have a certain fetish for information generated from the outside about ourselves. We need to generate that information. So let's put that one once more. That is the second back burner point. Benjamin, my concern is that if this tape is deep fake, why was it made? Who made it? Who leaked it? To what end? If it is correct or it is not fake and it is genuine, what, once more, do those who collaborated in bringing it out into the public domain want? So irrespective of which of these two perspectives apply, we need to get to the bottom of these faceless individuals who are seeking to undermine the credibility of an important institution by the Ghana Police Service and the credibility and authority of the Inspector General of Police. Because, once more, irrespective of which of these two perspectives apply, those who have put this state in the public domain do not have the interest and the stability of this country at heart. And that is why it is of critical importance that those behind it are exposed. And I don't know what the law says about deepfake and fake news. The appropriate sanctions must be applied. But I think the general public response to this state is that Dr. George Akuffo Dampare is doing a good job, that people feel confident, comfortable with him, that his civility, his approach to policing and visibility have been useful. And I think leadership does matter. And when leadership transforms institutions and the way institutions function, those in leadership positions also meet enemies. But those who have put this tape into the public domain are the enemies, not only of the Ghana Police Service and Dr. Dampare, but of the generality of the Ghanaian populace and our democratic process.
I mean, you can look at our Security and Intelligence Agencies Act. You can look at other acts bordering on our national security as a country. There appears to be a lacuna, doesn't there, when it comes to matters related to deep fake, artificial intelligence. These are new entrants into the system, and people are using them for good and for bad, for nefarious activity and for positive activity. This leaves us in a bit of a lurch when it comes to the law, because some have said that these are treasonable. So even if this didn't happen, or if it did happen, for those who are involved, what could be the consequences? And for whoever put this together, if found out, what could be the consequences, especially as our law may not be so specific on deepfake and AI?
Well, I mean, Benjamin, what is fascinating about Act 1030, that is the Security and Intelligence Services Act, is that there are innocuous phrases in that act that allows those who have infringed on the law and the sanctity of the state to be punished. Okay? I mean, if you read that bulky document, it gives those who want to apply that law more than enough leeway to do so. Because by producing this tape where it to be fake and putting it out into the general public, what you seek to do is to create disaffection first against the person of the IGP and its institution, and create a false impression that somebody wants to raise election 2024. Now, knowing the sensitivities around the next year's election, whoever did this at 1030 has more than enough articles in there for it to be used. So, I mean, no one can go scot-free. Now, taking into consideration the fact that social media, AI, and new technologies are coming into play, look, this act creates more than enough leeway. And probably you have heard about the Adelphi project.
Right.
If we are serious about this, look, we have the technology in this country also to triangulate where those voices are coming from, because there were some background sounds that can be tracked and drilled down. So if we are serious about finding who did this and who leaked this, then I think it is possible the technology is there, and the law also allows for punishment where we to find the people who are involved.
All right. Do hold for me, Prof. Let me bring in Peter Lansheni Tobu. He is member of the Defense and Interior Committee, also member of Parliament for Wa West. He joins the conversation. A very good morning to you, Supo.
Good morning, my brother. How are you doing?
I am very well.
Oh, let me salute my professor. Professor Gozeni, how are you?
Prof, you're getting salutations from Peter Tobu.
We are very old friends.
Well, no wonder we're having a friendly conversation. But to you, Peter, I've heard you speak on this matter, your initial thoughts, and you felt that while it had to be checked to ensure that no artificial intelligence had put this together, and we've seen the likes of tracks from Drake, the Canadian rapper. So it's a very dicey thing here. Deep fake with former President Obama. We have to get into it to find out what is truth, what is fiction. But at the same time, you're saying that we must probe the matter to its logical conclusion, and the minority will not take it lying down. Do you still stand by that position? And what do you want to see in terms of investigating the matter?
Thank you very much. Let me say good morning to your cherished listeners, and good morning to my senior brother and my mentor, Professor Isianin. When you look at the security implication of what we've got in at hand, it is quite interesting because they are implying that police can actually help government do the unlawful. Police can actually help government create chaos. But the police is an institution established by law. It has rules and regulations governing its operations. It has a mandate to comply with. The fact that the president appoints an Inspector General of Police doesn't make the Inspector General of Police partisan. The IGP can be politically sensitive, but the IGP is not allowed by law to be partisan.
Right.
And when you are professionally connected to your job, you cannot help a political party to do anything unlawful. I have said, the truth is that The chairman who is involved in this matter, and somebody just mentioned the name, that if he's really the one who is involved, Chairman Bukrina, if he's really the one, I know him. That man has principles. Somebody should call him and go to him and he'll tell you, yes, it is true. They came to me. These are the people who came to me. How it was recorded, probably I don't know. How it got leaked, I don't know. But Chairman Bukrina, if he's really involved, will never deny that truth and try to color anything. He won't do it. I know him.
Peter, this is a treasonable offense. It's not just going to be easy for someone to say, yes, I was in the midst of this conversation and this and that. I mean, self-interest.
I am telling you, Chairman Bukrina can speak truth to death.
I see.
Chairman Bukrina can speak truth to death. If he's speaking the truth, what is reasonable about somebody speaking the truth to ensure that security is very sane to all of us? So if we're able to do that, the fact that the two police officers who are mentioned in the audio, they are still serving. One is on terminal leave, but he's still a police officer. The other one is still in active service. Police service can actually do some administrative investigation and deal with them. Let's not even escalate it to a national level. Let the police administration use its own internal mechanism to deal with these people if it is proven that, yes, this was what they were doing behind the scenes to create a bad image for the Ghana Police Service, a huge dent for our democracy, and embarrass the president. This is so shameful.
Just hold for me. I'll come right back to you. Prof, I just want your brief take on this. Do you agree that the police service should deal with this matter internally? Some have said it should be escalated to the national level so we all get to know what is happening. Do you agree on that specific point?
No, I think Honorable Tobu makes a very good point here. You know, it's not everything that needs to be unnecessarily escalated to the national level. Can the police service deal with this administratively? Does it have the capacity to deal with this? Does it have the technological know-how? And I think he's mentioned some names. If those names that have been mentioned are correct, then yes, they can be called in and then administratively dealt with and interviewed. If the service thinks that it needs to elevate this to other institutions so that it creates a certain neutrality, then it's great. But we need to come to grips very quickly so that the sanctity of this institution is protected, the office of the IGP is protected.
Do you think the police has the capacity to do this?
Yes, I think so, yes.
All right. Just hold for me, Prof. Let me go back to Peter Tobu. So, obviously, Supo, you think the police should be delving into this matter rather than escalating it. We've heard from Ambrose Dery, the Interior Minister. He has poo-pooed it and said this is nothing, but you want it to be followed to its logical conclusion. And for you, the starting point is Bugri Nabu, right?
Yes. And for me, all the voices that we've heard and we believe they are the people. If it is AI generated, we can prove that. Mm-hmm. If they are really the people, involved, we can also prove that.
The question is, does the Ghana Police Service or the NIB have the capacity to do that?
They do.
Right.
They do. Yes, they do. And I think that the IGP should have begun this even yesterday, not today. Please, let's sanitize the system. You know, when you are Inspector General of Police, your mandate is beyond a political party. Your interest is to ensure that you've taken over a very peaceful country, you leave it better than you took over from. If nothing at all, it should not be worse. That is the mandate that you've been tasked with. The president says, please come and ensure that this country is peaceful. Come and manage crime. Ensure that criminal elements are caged so that we can have a decent life to live. That is all you are supposed to be doing. Any other thing that is an unlawful thing that you want to support to, no law will back you. Police take lawful instructions. And even the Inspector General of Police, irrespective of the fact that we are operating a unitary system, unity of command for the Ghana Police Service, command and control resides in the Inspector General of Police. If you issue wrong instructions, people will disobey them and disregard you, and you will not have legitimacy to perform your job as Inspector General of Police. I think that this matter should be an administrative one for the police to investigate. And let's not escalate it. We need enough time to think about creative stuff that can develop this country. and pick us out of this economic mess, and don't let this occupy too much of our attention.
You know the law pretty well. Deepfake and AI-related offenses, while we may have some trajectory of the law dealing with them, we don't have that integration properly because it's not something that is so prominent here. If this proves to be deepfake, how do we address it from the legal standpoint in terms of punitive measures and all of that?
Because it's going to be an administrative investigation. If they are proven guilty, even as much as it can be a misdemeanor, they will be dealt with. We just want them to investigate the matter and reveal the rot in the system and show them to the world that these are the kinds of people wearing uniform destroying the image of the police. That is what is paramount. It's not about the gravity of the offense or the gravity of the punishment. It's all about the fact that truth has been unearthed and the Ghana police will remain clean to support our democratic growth. Without police, we can't have democracy. And in every democratic system, a strong police institution gives the country a better future.
So I was talking about if it was deepfake. I think you are talking more about if those people cited, those high-ranking police officers, are in fact complicit, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what if this turns out not to be true, but it was a number of people who sat there, used technology, deepfake in this instance, to put this together? How do we deal with them?
If that is the angle, investigations will prove, and I'm sure that the victims who are involved will also be excited that we can go to the end and at least get those people behind the generation of these voices punished by law.
Right before I go back to Professor Enning, Peter, so we know that sharing some material can come with consequences. For example, teenagers engaging or someone recording a teenager or someone, a child, I should say, in sexual activity, intimacy and all of that, or sharing nude photos of a partner and all of that. Those are proscribed by our law. In this instance, this video, this audio, I should say, and some people are circulating it, does it come with any proscription, so to speak? And what would be the punitive measures, if any?
Right. I think that sometimes it is also good for information to be shared. I don't think that this is a very violent video. I am not sure that this one will create the kind of impact that sharing a video involving a child that is inappropriate. So please let people get to know that the video is in the system and it has been shared widely. Can we stop it from being shared? What are we intending to achieve? Let's delve into the video, credit it or discredit it, and we'll pick it from there.
Now, Prof, there has been this talk, and Peter Lanshini Tobu has already made mention of it, that the IGP can have a political leaning, but he shouldn't be, or he or she shouldn't be partisan. It shouldn't reflect in their work. They are IGP, not NPP IGP, not NDC IGP. But you listen to the tape, and there's also the rhetoric that has spun off it that the former president, John Dramani Mahama, purportedly again had given a promise to the IGP that if he came to power, he would still retain him as some sort of guarantee that just do your work, and if I come to power, I'll retain you. Can we extricate the IGP position, especially as it's under the executive, from the political twists and turns of our system?
What?
An IGP is appointed.
This is for Professor Enning.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
So an IGP is appointed. It's pretty tricky. But you know, you can be professional and you can be known for doing what is right, professionally. You know, will there be pressures occasionally to, you know, do favors? Yes. Will you do favors sometimes? Certainly. But those favors will not and must not go against the law or the general interest of the state. So, yes, an IGP can be appointed by one political party, But that IGP can also take decisions using the law that goes against the interests of that political party or individuals within that political party. And in the Fourth Republic, we've seen instances where IGPs have acted in ways that the appointing authority found difficult to deal with. So I don't think it's a contradiction at all. It is the integrity of the individual's professionalism, determination to lead a much better service. But irrespective of how an IGP works, or somebody similar in such a position, there will always be people who are affected by that decision who will say, well, you are for this party or for that party. So it is the integrity, professionalism, and this drive to lead a better, stronger, well-functioning institution that should be the fulcrum around which we discuss the role of an IGP.
Now, going back to the political point, Prof, if on the back of this, Mr. President decides at a point in time to replace Dr. George Ekufu Dampare, then it would appear government would in some way be held to ransom, because he may have his plans and he has the power per our constitution to do that. But with this, it would be as though he had been caught between a rock and a hard place, the devil and the deep blue sea. If you sack him, people will say, we said it, and it was true. If you don't sack him, people will say, he's afraid. Where does that leave our executive president in the midst of all of this? And should he be seen even wading into this matter?
No. Actually, the president shouldn't lose sleep at all. And I'm hoping that for lunch you have a very lovely caviar with cold smoked salmon and rye bread and a lovely glass of chablis. He shouldn't lose sleep over this. No. If he wants to change him, he will change him. If he wants to retain him, he must retain him. And I think the president has been very consistent, both in providing logistics to the Ghana Police Service, in praising the IGP when it is necessary, and I don't think this is a matter for the president's table at all. He will make the decisions that are necessary as and when he sees fit. However, because of the sensitivity of the tape, and here my interest is in those people who leaked it, let's get where the leakage, the source is from, and then we will find out whether it is AI generated or it is a generated. But the president should sleep and go about his job. This should not bother him at all.
Before we move on to the second subject, we're going to be discussing about those purported number of Burkinabes that are being sent back to their country. So in conclusion on this matter, in the next few days, yes, I should say days, not weeks, what actions specifically would you like to see from the Ghana Police Service? And while it has been jettisoned, so to speak, by the Interior Minister, the security setup, Defense, Interior, the NIB, the Ghana Police Service, and any other entity involved, what actions would you like to see step by step being taken to ensure that we get to the bottom of this, that we can determine that it is either this or that, and that based on this, these are the consequences of whoever was involved, whether it was artificial intelligence used, deepfake, or whether it was real? What would you like to see? I'll start with you, Prof, before I go back to Peter Tobu.
Okay, thank you very quickly. Whatever it is, we have the technology, we have the expertise to find out who made this tape, whose voices are on it, and who leaked it. But this should serve as a cautionary tale to the people of Ghana, that going forward, you cannot hide, neither can you run away. that AI, deepfake, and fake news will play a major role going forward.
We must wake up and smell the coffee, right?
We must wake up. Well, I have a lovely Ethiopian coffee that I'm drinking right now. But this fake and AI will play a very critical role in election 2024. And I think we need to up our game to be able to identify what is fake, what is right.
All right. Let me come to you, Peter Tobu. What's your thinking? What would you like to see in the coming days?
Thank you very much. The first thing I would like to see is very proactive action from the Ghana Police Service, because anything that traps the image of the Ghana Police Service into the map, we say it brings the name of the police service into disrepute. It is punishable administratively. And I want them to take a look at that. Whether it is AI, technology is managed by people. Whoever manages that AI has to be dealt with. If it is not AI and it is actually true that this is what happened, the two police officers who are involved should be dealt with. Simplicity. And going forward, let nobody be deceived that President Nana cannot remove Dr. Joseph. The truth, however, is that if you look at his leadership style, the attrition ministers will tell you that he hardly changed people. It is not every minister who is performing to the liking of the Ghanaian people. But President Nana hardly changed people. So it will be very out of the blue that he's changing the IGP that is providing the environment. Add to him that he did nothing at all during his time. He appointed one IGP that ensured every respected it for. I think that this is what is high in his leadership. For me, let's move forward on this matter and let's believe that the police can do something about it. Keep the police intact, because it's an institution of law that democracy must protect, and all of us must get support.
Right, so for you, the IGP is performing and he should be at post.
It is not for me to say, it is for all of us to see that when you go out there and you commit a traffic offense, the police do not really care who you are.
No, but just clarify this for me. I mean, maybe you may not be able to say that he should stay at post. I get you on that. But for you, you've been there. You've been an executive secretary or assistant to the IGP before. Maybe not this IGP. But the question is, do you feel, on the back of what you've seen, this IGP is performing? There are people sending in messages and they're saying, this guy is doing well. We shouldn't touch him. Do you corroborate that?
Listen, my brother, from the experience I've gotten, it is not the doing well that is IGP. There are so many other factors. But if it's just the practical demonstration of police expertise in the area of law enforcement, we give him a plus.
You'll give him a plus, right. Right before we go on, there was something that skipped my mind. Gentlemen, just briefly on this. I'll start with you, Peter. Ambrose Dery coming out to say, basically throw this in the dustbin. This is nothing to pay attention to. Do you agree with him? Was it a right thing to do?
That is a political statement. But the professional statement, if you have police officers, and if it is true, if there are police officers portraying their professionalism like this to a civilian, and you don't think that it brings the name of the police service to disrepute, then I don't know what it is. It's embarrassing, and in fact, it threatens the whole image of the Ghana Police Service. That if people at that level can stoop low, what is wrong with you both going to IGP and suggesting this and this are being, I think that we don't agree. I mean, one of them has been a POMAP member. POMAP is led by the IGP, but the IGP is not POMAP. Let me say this. The Police Management Board has the IGP as head, but the IGP is not the Police Management Board. Most board members can influence decisions. If you fail in your level to influence decisions, you don't go out and stab somebody in the back. I just want to believe that this is not true. If it is true, the act must fall where it's up or down, nonsense.
Prof, do you feel the minister erred by saying what he did so categorically when, in fact, we didn't even have the proof? We didn't have the evidence. We hadn't conducted any investigations.
The minister probably made a political statement. But professional, that would have been very wrong to say if he was...
Is that Prof or Lanchini?
Peter speaking, yes.
Okay.
That's Peter speaking, yes.
All right. Prof, what is your take? Did he err?
No, I don't think so. I mean, the minister needs to assuage public fears and public concern.
But without facts?
No. First is to his responsibility, first and foremost. And you will notice that he was focusing on possible criminal aspects, okay? Was to assuage public fears as to whether the tape is true or not. And from where he says, well, made a categorical statement. Now that we have some information, it's for those who have the information to go back and to say, Honorable Minister, what do we do? Okay, but I think every minister's responsibility, first and foremost, is to ensure that cases that can lead to fear, to upheaval, are assuaged and dampened, and then the subsequent responses can take place.
Gentlemen, let's now get into our the next segment of this conversation, which has to do with that expulsion, so to speak, of some Burkinabes from the northern belt of our country. Some are quoting figures up to about 60,000 of them. Prof, I'll start with you on that point. What do you know? And does it strike you as odd that, such numbers are being taken out of the country? We all know what is happening in the sub-region, especially in Burkina Faso. But what do you make of that situation?
No, I got wind of this first last night, fairly late last night. But before I come to your question, I want to preface my point once more with a caution.
Right.
I think the news feed that we are getting talks about Fulanis, herdsmen, and terrorists, I think. Now, when you lump these three categories together, it puts a particular ethnic stroke nationality at a disadvantage.
Right.
Not all Fulanis are herdsmen. That's number one. Number two, Fulanis actually stretch from Mauritania all the way to Djibouti. And in quite a number of countries, Fulanis are the majority. So I think in talking about these issues, we need to be sensitive to the potential ramifications that it can have on Fulanis who are Ghanaians but are not herdsmen, herdsmen who are in Ghana but may come from other places. So I just wanted to make that point, that we need to be careful in linking all these things. And also using the word refugees. You see, because these are very technical words, and please give me just 30 seconds. When we use the term refugee, then as a signatory to the international instruments relating to people who have crossed an international boundary, we need to provide some humanitarian assistance. Of course, taking into consideration where we are located, we also need to put in place some systems that allows us to identify, isolate, and repatriate those that we perceive to pose a potential threat to the country. Okay, and I think taking into consideration what is happening, it's important that there's a bit of sensitivity. If you look at Burkina Faso, Mali, northeastern Nigeria, Niger, parts of Cameroon, the way that refugees are treated also creates a basis and a foundation for potential future recruitment. So I think there's a need for some sensitivity, and I'm hoping that Ghana Refugee Board and UNICEF will begin some process of engagement and providing technical support. But 60,000 is quite a huge number. I don't know the specifics, but 60,000 sounds like quite a large number of
And that's what we've been thinking as well. For you, Peter Tobu, so 60,000, that's quite a number. We've been wondering, just as Professor Enning rightly mentioned a short while ago, what the role of the National refugee board would be in this matter would be looking, for example, at the Regional Security Council, the RECSEC, what its role is in this entire development. And the Fulbe people, I've been told the proper term to use is not Fulani, but Fulbe. The Fulbe people also caught in the midst of all of this. There's been a lot of talk because there are those who have been with us for practically centuries, and there are those who are the nomads who roam across the sub-region, who come through from time to time. But for you, what is your understanding of this issue? What does it mean for our national security, Peter Tobu?
First of all, let me say, I agree with Prof on the fact that let's not lump people together and call them Fulani headsmen. I have detested that phrase for years. Somebody is a headsman. It's probably not a Fulani. And somebody goes to commit a crime. The person has a name. If a Fulani man commits a crime and he's called Isipu, say Isipu committed a crime and he's a Fulani by tribe. But don't say Fulanis are criminals. That is unacceptable for national peace and security. I've worked in refugee camps in Darfur, in South Sudan, and other areas. There is a thin line between refugees and IDP. IDP is internal displaced persons. When you cross an international border, you become a refugee, and you are so vulnerable. And in that vulnerable state, because we are signatories to all these international conventions, we have the responsibility to provide them the desired security. We have the responsibility to provide them support. We have responsibility to ensure that they have livelihood. If we don't do that, we have a bunch of people in the 60,000. We have a bunch of 60,000 people who can actually become a national security threat because they can be accessible to terrorist recruitment, and they live within your territory. So let's, as human as we are, be humane in dealing with refugees. It is today that they are called refugees, and you are living in your country. Tomorrow, when you are also out of your country, you can also be called a refugee. Give to them what you expect to be given to you if you find yourself in a similar situation. We are all human beings.
Do you think in this instance that, from what you know and from where you sit, we're doing this the right way?
Absolutely not. We are not, because if you look at the refugee board, the National Refugee Board, I've looked at their budget and I've listened to them. The complaint that sometimes brings to the committee, and sometimes it don't take matters serious because it looks like I am not a refugee. Okay? These are people from one country, and they come to our country. Why should they come and stress us? But you are signatory to an international convention. And apart from that, you should know that if you don't give them attention, they can actually tend to become a serious national security threat to your own country. Prevention is better than cure. Let me put it that way.
Now, this question to both of you, I'll start with you, Peter Tobu. In international relations, and at least per the conventions that we have, people crossing borders, and like you rightly said, their vulnerability, there is the principle of refoulement, as the French would put it, or refoulement, where the forcible return of refugees or asylum seekers to a country where they are likely to be subjected to persecution is forbidden. In this instance, we know the turmoil Burkina Faso is going through. What is your reaction to that? And I'll throw that to Prof as well. But first, you, Peter.
Yes. You cannot forcibly return people to their own country. Sometimes they will be executed. They will be killed. They will be killed. Extrajudicial. They will not face any legal process. And because of that, we are saying that the world is one. Your brother is your brother, and we are each other's keepers. Today it is me in trouble. Please, can you open your arms and receive me? Protect me, because tomorrow it will be you. If you properly return them, and they go and they are shot dead, tomorrow when it is your turn, people may even enter your country and shoot you to death, because you have become so irresponsible as a state, behaving as if you are living in an island. This world is a single village, and we need each other to make the world a beautiful place.
You know, as I come to you, Prof, this reminds me of the year 1989 when, while we're Ghanaian, my family was caught in the first civil war in Liberia, Monrovia, and coming back to Ghana and what we went through. Now, the difference is that we were not refugees because we were leaving to our own country. But that entire picture of having to flee and go to another country is one that if you've not faced before, you would probably not understand. But for you, on the principle of refoulement, are we getting it right, this action we're taking?
I was once a very proud refugee in Denmark.
Mm-hmm.
In 1985, I went to Denmark as a refugee.
I see.
No, I went to Denmark as an asylum applicant. I was very quickly given asylum status, learned Danish, did an MPhil, and did a PhD. Denmark opened its arms and said, "You are in need of help, I will give it to you." And for that, I'm grateful. I got a good education and I've come back home. We have had a history of tolerance and hospitality, which I think we shouldn't lose, even when we are also faced with security threats from all our neighboring countries, Burkina Faso, Côte d'Ivoire, and northern Togo. And getting the balance right demonstrates our humanity and who we are as Ghanaians. The narratives about refugees as carriers of diseases, of bringing insecurity, crime, is very popular, and it's a very easy way to project this group of people. Can there be bad nuts amongst them? Certainly. Just like there were bad nuts amongst us in Denmark, in Sweden, in Norway, in Germany, in Netherlands, in Belgium, and in France, and in the United States. Ghanaians who sought asylum in Sweden and elsewhere have contributed to tarnishing our reputation as the destination of choice for stolen luxury vehicles. Have those countries deported us and maltreated us? No. So my appeal is that together with the Ghana Refugee Board and UNICEF, let's start a process of assessment and evaluation so that those that we don't want can leave. We also do remember during the Liberian crisis that the late Jerry Rawlings accepted tens of thousands of Liberians and relocated them to the Buram camp. That camp became, or actually attained quite a number of interesting feats. One was that it was the first camp where levels of acculturation were so good that even the Ghanaians started to speak with Liberian accent. That camp at a point in time supplied quite a large percentage of fresh vegetables in the Accra area. The amount of transfers into the Accra area from Western Union that went to that camp was massive. You know, so refugees have a potential to contribute to their host nation. Okay, so let's look at the site nicely, and let's see those who truly and genuinely do deserve help,
right, and
let's send it to them.
Gentlemen, your very final thoughts. You can fuse in any thoughts you have on both the Dampare saga and this one in just a short bit. There were messages.
I need to run to a meeting, so let me just.
Yes, so you go ahead. Final comments in less than a minute.
Yes. So I think when the president should not get involved in this Dampare case or this TED case, whatever decisions that the president wants to take must be taken in the belief that, you know, he would have taken them anyway without this thing. And then let's not conflict too many things in seeking to protect ourselves, which is our legitimate right. So Fulanis, refugees, terrorists, and herdsmen Those four designations are self-contradictory. It does not help us. We need to be more humane in accepting and treating those who truly and genuinely need help. And I want to thank you very much. And Pete, thank you so much, Honorable.
Thank you, Prof. He was thanking you, Honorable Tobu, as well. Peter, you have the final word.
Thank you so much. Let me just say that a piece of advice to the Inspector General of Police.
Right.
The President can said, thank you very much for the short time you stayed with me. You've done a good job. I need to do to you somebody else. And you should be grateful to the President. Whatever is happening doesn't stop the President from changing you if he wants to change you. And whatever is happening cannot also push the President to change you. Let's take note of that. What Dr. Dampare should be doing to creating that balance of purpose at the IGP, where the integral public, the police, are motivated and their morale is high for them to continue to deliver. And external public, that includes all of us, are served the delicacy that we need, peace and security. And let's be careful with the refugee. Tomorrow could be our turn. We should go for it. But when you find your brother who is human as you and is in this serious distress, let's give them the best as we can. Let's be humane towards them and pray that their countries become peaceful for them to return today. I'm grateful.
We're grateful to you too, Supo. So those who joined us for this conversation, Professor Kwesi Enning, Director, Faculty of Academic Affairs and Research at the Kofi Anchi International Peacekeeping Training Center. We also had Member of Parliament for Wa West, I'm talking about Peter Lanshini Tobu, Supo, retired, Member of the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament. Of course, while, God forbid, that would not be something we want to happen, you could be in your own country today, tomorrow you could be an asylum seeker or a refugee. So let's all be kind. That is not also to take away from the exercise that is going on. But coming up next, Ghana 4, we're going to be discussing the food suppliers saga, where they have rejected a part payment to the close to 300 million Ghana cedis owed them after a meeting with the Minister for Education, insisting they need full payment in order to pay their indebtedness to their creditors, which keeps soaring. Now, the buffer stock company owes the food suppliers a whopping 270 million Ghana cedis for food supply to senior high schools across the country between the years 2021 and 2023. We asked, what is the way forward? We've been interacting with Africa Education Watch. We'll be going to the Education Committee of Parliament. We'll also bring in one of those involved, one of the food suppliers, as we have our next conversation. But before we go, I always do this before I go and take a sip of water, because I'm going to be sipping on Awake purified drinking water. We know water is life. If you're a man, over 60% of your body, right, is made up of water. If you're a woman, just a little less than that. Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. And there's more. There are sizes for everybody. The kids, 330 ml, they are sorted, good for school. 500 milliliters, 750 milliliters, 1.5 liters if you are one of those heavy drinkers. And if you're thinking of something for your office or your home, the 19-liter jar bottles are simply ideal. So all you must do now is stay awake with Awake purified drinking water. And here's the most heartwarming aspect for me. If you purchase Awake purified drinking water, for every bottle, a token, an amount is given to the National Cardiothoracic Center. You know, heart treatment is really expensive. Most people cannot afford it. This is a little way of giving back to such people. If you'd like to purchase in bulk, just call this number 0262 351 251. This is another quality product by Casapreco Company Limited. And remember, this advert is FDA approved. When we return, that conversation on the food suppliers. Up next on the AM show. Let's get back to the issues. It's showtime again, and we get to the second big story we're looking at on the AM show. It has to do with food suppliers owed 270 plus million Ghana cedis, almost 300 million Ghana cedis. Between 2021 and this year, this has accumulated, and they are saying they can no longer deal with the situation. Now, an offer was made to pay them half of the sum owed, and they resisted it fiercely, saying they have bills to pay, they've taken supplies that they have paid for or they have to pay for, and they have to account. And some of them have picketed the buffer stock company office. Well, today we have a number of them. In fact, the PRO for these food suppliers, he joins me in the studio. He's in the person of Kofi Anchi. He is spokesperson for the buffer stock food suppliers. Then there is Dr. Clement Park, Deputy Ranking Member, Education Committee of Parliament. And also from the educational perspective, we have from Africa Education Watch, Kofi Anchi, who joins us via Zoom. These people join us via Zoom, and then we come into the studio. But let me just confirm with those who are joining us virtually. Dr. Park, Mr. Anchi, a very good morning to you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, I can hear you, please.
All right. Loud and clear. So it means we have a connection. Let me start in the studio. Kofi,
yes,
paint a picture for us. For the food suppliers, you speak for them.
Yes.
What has been happening to the food suppliers all this while? They've not been paid. They have bills to pay. They have got food that they have supplied to the Buffer Stock Company Limited,
yes,
and without payment.
Yes.
Now an offer has been made to pay them half the sum. Has that half sum been paid already?
I'd like to say good morning to your good self and good morning to your viewers. Yes, as for 2022, we didn't receive anything from government. 2021, we received some, and it was left with some, but later I was paid. But the issue has to do with the bill of 2022. Indeed, yesterday we were with the Minister of Education. We were invited at his instance, where he made a number of revelations to us. He indicated to us that in the year 2021, he paid an amount of 100 million to buffer stock. In the year 2022, he paid an amount of 283 million Ghana cedis, and the early part of 2023, he's released 35 million cedis to buffer stock.
Walk me through those figures again. 100 million in 2021.
100 million in 2021.
283?
283 in 2022.
Okay.
And then 35 million in 2023.
And who was saying this?
The Minister of Education.
Education Minister.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Right.
So he made the point that he's, under normal circumstances, not obliged to invite us because he's signed a contract with Buffer Stock, and his commitment under that contract is to source for funding from the Ministry of Finance and release same to Buffer Stock to supply to disburse to we the suppliers. And so it's unfortunate that our incidents come up, but he gave us assurance that it is the vision of His Excellency the President that he wants to leave free SHS as a legacy for Ghanaians. And so he will not watch us go into these problems unabated. And so there are attempts to get us settled. And he also gave us assurance that the Minister of Agriculture had shown interest in settling this matter. So he's the best person to save us from this situation. And what
do you make of those reactions from the Education Minister, Dr. Educhu?
Well, I mean, as he has said...
That he's not obliged actually to meet with you. It's the Buffer Stock Company that he deals with.
No, he is talking about the legality of the relationship in this, regarding this, our transaction.
Right.
But I think he owes us a moral obligation. But I think he's fulfilled that moral obligation by inviting us and explaining or bringing clarity on the matter. It's understandable because it was a friendly gesture. That's okay. But the intriguing aspect of his revelation is when he told us that we are going to be paid half of our money. No, part of our money. That's, let me quote him right. It's not good.
Part
of our money.
It's not stated categorically that it's going to be half.
Exactly. Right. He said we're going to pay part of the money. That was quite striking. Because, my brother, this money has been with government for 2 years, and we are being paid without interest. We've been stripped of.
You're being paid without interest?
Yes, you're not going to.
So with all the price fluctuations, inflation and everything, it's not factored in?
It is not factored in. And we have incurred so much expenditure in an attempt to retrieve the money from government. Our membership is scattered across all the regions in Ghana. So anytime we are summoned here to come and take our money, we come at our own cost. And it's quite excruciating. And if you observe the way we operate, most of our members had gone for bank loans, and some had gone to secure this produce on credit. And so when a portion or minute of it, whatever quantum is given to us, as the thing is, as our issues are on air, we're discussing everywhere, everybody knows that we are coming to take money. And so if you are given a portion of it, we cannot be able to satisfy or to settle our contractual liabilities with other partners in our business. Right. And it is going to pose much more danger to us than ever. We want to appeal to those who matter, but we know that we still have opportunity to engage the Minister of Agriculture. Mm-hmm. We still have the opportunity to engage the officials of the Buffer Stock Company. Right. Hopefully, and hopefully so, Friday is a closing date of the time we're given. Mm. And as the minister said, they say there's some money is in the pipeline that is going to be released. You see, this money has...
You know where that money is from?
Well, he indicated that it's coming from the Minister of Finance. But the point here is, our money had been released already, which is with buffer stock. 218...
How do you know that?
He indicated that 2022, he had released 283 million.
Oh, you're referring to the 283 million.
So that 200, we are only claiming 270 million. Another money is coming from the Minister of Finance to be added to the 280.
So in other words, what you're telling me is, if all things being equal, this shouldn't have been a problem.
No, it should.
If 283 million was released for 2022,
yes,
and you're owed 270 million as of now, it means this shouldn't be a problem.
No, it shouldn't be a problem.
But somehow it is a problem.
No, I don't think it's a problem. I mean, he's not said there's a problem. He's not indicated that there's a problem. Of course, 35 had been released in the early part of 2023. 283. There's another one coming. There's excess money that can be paid to us.
Why do you think? Do you know why the Buffer Stock Company has not released the said sum of money to you? And now there is even talk of making part payment, which we do not know specifically how much that will be.
Yes, I can only speak to the issues of what we were told when we met, the management of Buffer Stock Company regarding...
so you don't know why?
That's what he told us. He told us when we met the management of Buffer Stock at the time, that the minister told us earlier than this, that he had released 90%. By that time, he didn't tell us how much amounted to the 90%. So it was yesterday we got to know that the 90% he told us amounted to the 90%, amounted to the 983 million that he claimed. 283 million. So when we confronted officials of Buffer Stock, they said, indeed, that money came into their coffers and they had some loans on their books. So they had used our money to defray those loans. And that was the excuses we were given.
Wow.
My brother, we had gone through a lot of challenges in trying to recoup our money. We have gone through we've been given a lot of excuses. Some of the excuses are related to administrative bureaucracies and bottlenecks. And it's been on and on and on for 2 years. We had picketed, we had written letters, and worst of it, we are no longer in the business of supply with them. The business of supply has been stripped of our membership. So it's not as if we have opportunity to continue so that we can make some profit to defray our lost profit. At the time, the government...
Why was this relationship truncated?
Yes, I would want you to throw these questions to the minister. He's the best person because...
When you say minister, the Minister of Education?
Minister of Education, because currently he's the one doing... he's no longer under the purview of the buffer stock. We're now doing it through commodity exchange, and the minister is responsible for payment. But I can tell you that currently people are doing supply and they are being paid.
So now your group of suppliers, you've been ousted from the scheme.
Yes.
You are owed a lot of money.
Yes.
You've been removed from the scheme.
Yes.
So you're not participating in it. Yet some new suppliers have been contracted.
Yes.
And they are getting paid.
Yes.
How many are your suppliers? What's the number?
We are over 100.
Over 100.
And we had started this free SHS with government from the inception of the policy. In fact, at the times things were difficult, like 2022, we were asked to supply on credit. That we did for the entire year without taking a penny. So we are expected to be treated better than now. We are expected to be given some acknowledgement. You see, in a policy building of this nature, you can only help your government. You can only assist the government. Government in development process cannot do it alone. So when the government is rolling out free SHS, it is dependent on some of the stakeholders, like the suppliers, those who sew school uniforms, and other people who matter. And so, if we want to articulate on the successes of free SHS, and we still have backlogs of money to be paid to suppliers like us, it means we cannot be talking about success of the free SHS.
Okay, so before I go to Dr. Park and Mr. Asare, just a quick one. Do you feel shortchanged? Do you feel aggrieved by this move, especially as you are owed so much? Do you feel unfairly treated?
Especially.
By the minister?
No,
by government?
By the entire managers of the policy. We feel so badly treated, especially so when at the time things were difficult. You see, it will interest you to know that when we source for these foodstuffs, for instance, if I'm asked to supply 100,000 bags or 10,000 bags of maize, you don't take it from one supplier. You don't take it from one source. You take it from different sources at your own transportation cost of loading and cost of offloading. You go through all this without being given a penny. For an entire year, check the inflation cost, check the cost of doing business, check the bank rate, check everything. Everything has gone up. And so if there's any money now for us to undertake or continue this business of supply, we should be given considerable chunk of the supply. And I can tell you on authority that there are some who are giving advance payment to go and supply. We think that we've not been treated fairly, but all we can ask for is we have some money in the coffers of buffer stock to take. And we are appealing to the government and those who matter, and especially to the Honorable Minister of Agric. He's giving us assurance. It is based on his assurance that we left the picketing, we abandoned the picketing. We're hoping that we'll have opportunity to meet him and tell him our grievances. I have so much confidence in him. I have so much trust in him because the way he communicated with us, a lot of our membership believed in him.
It gave you hope.
Yeah, it gave
Just
us
hold
hope.
for me. Let me bring in Dr. Clementa Park, who is on the Educational Committee or on the Education Committee of Parliament. For you, with these happenings, I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that some debt is owed suppliers, but with an entire year going by, and now the curious bit that Koku tells me that, listen, money, 283 million, was actually released in 2022, but the company used it to settle other debts. How do you react to that? All right, I'll put that question to Mr. Asare. Okay, all right. Dr. Park, I don't know whether you heard me, but here's the question. With everything that has happened, supposedly 283 million Ghana cedis released last year, but the buffer stock company did not give the funds to the suppliers. And that could have sufficed to take care of the 270 million they are owed. What do you make of the situation?
Our co-panelists,
before the line dropped, I heard you had mentioned Kofi Anchi, and you had also mentioned the PRO of the Ghana Food Suppliers Association. But you see, before I even tackle the immediate question, I heard the PRO of the the Ghana Food Suppliers Association narrate some of the comments that the Minister for Education made. And I find some of those comments rather unacceptable and an attempt to shift blame. When the Minister for Education tells them, for example, that he is not obligated to meet them, and that because he has entered into a contract with the Ghana Buffer Stock Food Company, that company has the responsibility of dealing with this. Does the minister forget that if there are issues about food shortages, inadequate food, and or unwholesome food being supplied to our wards in the secondary schools, that has consequences for their presence on campus and their academic work? And so if the students are sent home by virtue of matters related to food, whose responsibility is that? So simply put, the minister is ultimately responsible as far as any and everything to do with education and the supply of food to feed our wards is concerned. In any case, as a member of the Education Committee, I am yet to cite a contract between the Ministry of Education and the Ghana Stock Food Company. So we will continue to hold the Minister for Education responsible. Now, having dismissed the minister's attempt to renege on his responsibility, my simple answer to the question you have asked is this. If we have evidence to show that the minister indeed was able to pay buffer stock, pay the contractual agreement, and buffer stock then failed to pay the suppliers that it has contracted to supply food to our schools, then there ought to be accountability. Because buffer stock is a government-owned company. Buffer stock is not a private company that has the capacity of disobeying and or refusing to act based on laid down agreements. Buffer stock, we know, is under the auspices of the ministry, and we know the money comes from the Ministry of Finance to education and to buffer stock. So regardless of who spent what, who gave what money, I think that the good people of Ghana are still owed an in-depth explanation from all the key holders who all are assigned agencies and ministries of the current government. But you see, this raises a lot more questions which justify the calls that many of us have been making. It is time to review the implementation of the free senior school policy in its totality. It is time to conduct an audit as far as the expenditure that has been undertaken to keep the program running. The level of opacity, the level of secrecy that the program is being run upon leaves a lot more to be desired. How can I be convinced that for a program that has received allocations of 11.9 billion from 2017 to 2023, we are being given all these excuses? And mind you, the challenges don't have to do with injectedness, wonderful supply. As we speak, suppliers of uniforms to the students, suppliers of sports apparel have not been paid. Sooner than later, you will hear of them as well. As we speak, government is yet to remit some of the absorbed fees, including ICT fees, library fees, school maintenance fees, as well as the produce. So the question is this: what have the monies that we have been approving on the program been used for year in, year out? So this brings a much more bigger issue to the fore, above and beyond the issue of indebtedness only the food suppliers.
And now with the switch that Koku talks about, where they were supplying since the inception of the school feeding, at least for this government, this administration, and they've been treated in this way. Now there are new suppliers and they are owed so much money. So even if they were still on the program, they would have been able to cut their losses. Do you feel it is fair, or do you feel there is no error in there from the perspective of the education minister who now makes the allocations?
Well, you see, it is a very murky situation. And look, I am on record. I have had this conversation with you. Kofi Anchi has been on several programs with me. I am one of those who believe very strongly that the buffer stock company, having been brought in, if you like, to be central to the food chain, has become a conduit of large-scale corruption. I mean, we actually know of buffer stock food suppliers who themselves have shortchanged the institutions over invoicing and the supply of a wholesome food. So I am one of those who actually believe that, as the leadership of CHAS has indicated, it is time for us to go back to the old arrangement where the food is procured by the headmasters through their own local arrangements, and let's cut out the middleman known as buffer stock. But having said, I truly believe that in the current context, with the issue at hand, the members of the Ghana Food Suppliers Association have not been taken fairly, because it doesn't make sense to me at all. And except, of course, somebody somewhere stands to benefit. How else do you explain the fact that the group that has been on board, which has done most of the heavy lifting from the onset, is owed an amount in excess of 270 million, have not been paid, and yet newer groups, according to the protesters, one formed by the Ghana Food Buffer Stock Company itself, and another group formed by the Ministry of Education, are being paid to supply food, and sometimes are even pre-financed to supply the food, while the original group is still indebted. That in itself raises the issue of accountability, is marked of corruption, and that is another reason why I believe the call for an audit is justified. And I also believe that the reforms that we have been calling for must be taken on board earnestly, because we cannot continue on this trajectory. We must be assured that we are getting value for money. What I see, I sit. We are not getting value for money as far as the free senior school is concerned.
Right. Let me come to you, Kofi Anchi. You've listened patiently to the different ends of the conversation. Are you also curious about the fact that, first off, they have been let go of and the new ones are getting paid, but the old food suppliers who started with this are not getting paid? And does it make any sense to you that 283 million was provided by the Education Ministry to the Buffer Stock Company in 2022, yet a penny was not paid to the food suppliers? Any thoughts?
Well, let me indicate that Edward has been silent on this issue for the past week because we wanted the Ministry of Education to pronounce on the matter, since it fell squarely on their lap. So we are communicating now and sharing our opinion because we learned that there was a meeting yesterday between the minister and then the Association of the Suppliers. I must begin by saying that we need to have a statement issued by the Minister of Education regarding the outcomes of the meeting he held with the food suppliers. That statement must come from the Ministry of Education. We need to also have another statement issued by the management of buffer stock after the said meeting with the association members, as claimed by the PRO. The formal communication on the outcomes of such meetings are important for our discourse. They are important for the way forward, because I see a lot of incongruity. I see a lot of distortion in data being put out by various parties on various platforms. If you read the statement issued by the association, in paragraph 2, they claim that the ministry is saying that they have paid all the 280 million owed them and added another 35 or so by January this year, which means that the ministry is not indebted to them so far as debts as of 2022, 31st December are concerned. Meanwhile, in the last but one paragraph of that release, they say that the ministry is saying that the finance ministry is working with the finance ministry to make payment to them. So if the ministry has already made payments, the Ministry of Education has already made payments to the association. And for that matter, the Ministry of Education is not owing them for 2022 or as of 2022.
That's not what he said.
What other payment is the Minister of Finance working on?
You should read the statement again.
By way of part payment, as we speak. What other payments? So the inconsistencies being bundled around require official.
Please hold for me. Koku in the studio is saying that there are no inconsistencies. Quickly, what is the clarity?
Saying that we have not said that we've been paid. We are saying that the minister says he had released 283 million in 2022. In 2023, he had released 35 million, not to us. He had released those monies to buffer stock, but we had not received a penny, especially so in 2022. 2022, where you supplied, we never paid a dime. There's no inconsistency. We've been consistent from the infancy. We've never said we've been paid. We're saying that in 2022, we were given part, we had to struggle to get a balance. In 2021, we had to struggle to get a balance. In 2022, we were not paid a dime. Till today, we've not been paid.
All right.
In 2023, 35 million again was released to buffer stock. We've not been paid. That's what we've been talking.
All right,
that's what we've been saying.
Kofi Anchi, back to you. So you have the clarity now.
He didn't understand my question. So I think he rushed to make a clarity. The point I was making is that the incongruity is not in what he responded to. The incongruity lies in the fact that the ministry, after according to their statement, the ministry, after paying all arrears owed them to buffer stock by January 2023, proceeds in the last but one paragraph in their statement and say that the minister pledged that the Ministry of Finance is in the process of releasing part of our arrears this week. Which arrears again? If the same ministry is saying that they have paid your arrears to buffer stock as of January 2023, which arrears again is the ministry saying finance ministry is in the process of releasing? It is that incongruity.
Okay, so please, can I ask?
Wait, let me talk. It is based on this incongruity that I am saying that it is important for the Ministry of Education to issue a release on the back of the meeting with the association, and also for NABCO, buffer stock, to do same, because according to the association, they had met NABCO, buffer stock, and they have considered that they received such payment. If those two releases are issued, they will have official positions in respect of whether payment of 280 plus 35 was made to buffer stock, and indeed, if buffer stock receives same, what the money was used for. But for now, we can't rely on a statement that says that the ministry is saying they have paid all our money to buffer stock. But then the next paragraph, we say that, however, the ministry is saying that it is working with the Ministry of Finance to process all process part of our standing debt. There's nothing outstanding if the ministry is saying they have paid it. So that is what I say clarity is required. However, let me proceed and indicate that the problem we are discussing is the issue we are discussing is a symptom of a problem. As usual, we are nowhere near solving the problem of poor financing of feeding under the Free Senior School program. That is the problem. Now, the symptomatic approach to problem solving, especially in the education sector where I work, is not sustainable, and we keep saying it. We are scratching the surface of the problem. The minister has intervened. The problem is that there is a liquidity issue. Finance Ministry is not able to raise money to pay for food supplied by buffer stock suppliers. That is the problem. And all the time we are creating legacy debts in the senior high school food value chain. That is the problem. Now, the education minister in his response adapts what I see as a risk-spreading approach, where instead of working to free more resources or innovatively re-engineering the financing mechanisms for food under the Free Senior High School program, he adopts a risk-spreading approach where instead of putting all his eggs in one basket, which is the buffer stock basket, he decides to bring on Ghana Commodity Exchange with different suppliers so that if there's a default in paying suppliers at buffer stock, and should they decide not to supply or not to supply because they don't have they are owed, our schools will not run down or they will not close down, so that they can also rely on the Ghana Commodity Exchange. That is a risk-spreading approach, which makes sense. But this is short-termist. It is short-termist. It is ad hoc. And beyond the short term, I am telling you that if you give us 1 year, 1.5 years, Ghana Commodity Exchange will arrive at the same destination that this association people are. That's why we are certain about the destination. That's where they will arrive at. So the ministry must address the root causes, which is the slow financing of slow disbursement of funds from the Ministry of Finance to pay for the Free Senior School program, especially the feeding, because the feeding is about 70% of the program. Last year, when the Minister of Finance went to Parliament to present the budget, by that time, end of Q3 last year, about only 55% of disbursement for Free Senior High School had been made.
Right.
And I'm talking about the end of third quarter, when the Minister of Finance was presenting the 2023 budget to Parliament. Only 55% of disbursement to Free Senior High School had been made. So we have a traditional low disbursement of maximum 62% for the Free Senior High School since 2017. If you don't fix this poor budget execution, issue, switching from supplier A to supplier B because you owe and can no more pay by supplier A, and so you move to B, it is only, a short-term measure to manage a symptom. At a point, the system may crash if we don't tackle the bull by the horn.
So for you, that is a recipe for disaster, that move.
So I believe that what the ministry...
Kofi, we have to make tracks. We have to wind down the conversation. So please make your points a bit brief.
We need to have the Ministry of Education and the stakeholders in this business. We need to have a dialogue to review the financing mechanism of the Free Senior High School feeding. These new decisions are ad hoc and short-termist. They will prevent schools from going hungry in the short term. But in the long term, the same problem that has caught up with the buffer stock suppliers will catch up with Ghana Commodity Exchange, because the problem is still slow disbursement or delayed disbursement of approved funds for running the Free Senior School program by the Ministry of Finance.
All right. So, gentlemen, we've got to the solutions end. That's how we're capping off the conversation. I'm giving you less than a minute each. Where do we go from here in terms of solutions? I'll come into the studio first. Koku.
Yes. First of all, permit me to give to bring some clarity.
You don't have that much time.
Yes, please permit me, because he seems to be having confusion. We are saying that the minister has promised that another money is coming. He had released 285 million already to the buffer stock that buffer stock was supposed to disperse to our membership. But we are again, buffer stock are not giving us that money. But the minister is also saying this week, government has promised to release another 35 million. So the question you and I are supposed to be asking is what has happened to the 283 million and then the subsequent 35 million, and then that had been released.
What will happen to the 35 million? Because it's not yet to come.
Yes. And what has happened? How was the disbursement done? What model of disbursement was adopted by buffer stock? That's what I'm. So I'm not saying that government has not paid us. Government has paid us some or no. Government has not paid us. They are yet to be given our money. So the way forward is government understanding the plight of these suppliers. The way forward is government appreciating the emotional trauma these suppliers are going through.
And that skips my mind. You can just spend maybe some 30 seconds on that. What have been the effects, the consequences of the debt owed you on your members? What has been the effect? You can wrap with that.
Yes, their economic condition has worsened than before. They have to do with crippling debt because most of these people went to take bank loan, and the bank, they have used their collateral to secure those loans. And some of them also went to secure those foodstuffs on credit. The creditors are on them for 2 years.
I know a lot of these banks don't do the collateral thing anymore. Are they still?
Of course.
Have any people lost property?
Yes.
On the back of this, houses?
Most of them are in court. As I speak with you, those who picketed the last time, about 4 of them are in court over non-payment of their debt. And it's a serious matter that the government is so decoupled from these suppliers that we need to get to them and solve their problem for you. They are not really interested in the interest on the money. They have taken it as a sacrifice they are also making to the state. The state must reciprocate the sacrifices these people are making by paying them their peanuts.
All right, thank you, Koku. Final words, Dr. Apak.
You know, the ministers for Agric, Education and Finance are slated to appear before the August House of Parliament today. And so we would wait to hear what they have to say on record as far as this matter is concerned. But ultimately, I will restate what I've been saying all along. It is time to review the pre-senior school policy in its totality so that we can find a much more sustainable and less challenging ways of delivering what is an otherwise good program. It is also time to conduct an audit into the funding of the program and what the resources have been applied to. As it stands now, nobody can say on authority the amount of money that has gone towards feeding the students, that has gone towards textbooks, that has gone towards school uniform, and all the other fee elements that government claims it has absorbed to make the program free. We need an audit to know where our resources have gone.
Thank you, Doc, for those parting shots. Finally, to you, Kofi Asare, final words. What's the way forward?
Well, I think that, first of all, government, it's obvious government has demonstrated enough, tremendous incapacity to effectively finance the feeding aspect of the free senior school program. There's hardly there's hardly a quarter without drama. And we are aware of the legacy debts that we are building in the food, sector of the free senior school program. It is time to have a conversation about, financing feeding in our senior high schools. We can't continue to pretend that these legacy debts are great. They are not great. Second, I want to urge the association members that, we must move from the era where we engage on contractual issues with emotions and charity and sympathy. You have a contract with government. Government refuses to honor their obligation for over 2 years. You should be in court by now. So please, let's stop. Let's begin to engage our contracts and then get government to do the right thing through the lawful procedures. We know that most of these contracts are given to political faithful. So some of them will not like to go to court, but sympathies cannot enforce the obligation of government. And so let's go to court if you feel that your right under the contract have been injured by government. Finally, the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Agric must pronounce on this matter. The data the various information being put out by various institutions will have to cease. We can only know how much have been paid to buffer stock and what it was used for if the Ministry of Education issues a statement or makes a pronouncement on same in Parliament.
Right.
Same for Agri, same for Finance. So let's wait and see what happens in Parliament. We hope that we find finality to this matter.
Thank you, gentlemen. In the studio, of course, Kofi Anchi, spokesperson for the buffer stock food suppliers. We also had, joining the conversation on the line, Dr. Clement Park, Deputy Ranking Member on the Education Committee of Parliament, and Kofi Anchi, Executive Director, Africa Education Watch. Now, we're going to take a bit of a breather. When we return with AM Business, it will be that look in terms of entrepreneurs in Ghana and the many challenges they are facing in their quest to expand and sustain their businesses. Some of these small businesses have collapsed within a short period since their inception. And Joy Business's Jessie Aram Agbakpo will be telling us what she found out is accounting for all of this. That after the break.
High unemployment rate in Ghana continues to alarm the country's youth and successive governments. According to statistics, Ghana has more than 635,000 unemployed individuals as of 2022. In response to the rising rate of youth unemployment, the government began encouraging young people to pursue entrepreneurship. However, many of these entrepreneurs encounter many difficulties. Co-founder of Medbox and entrepreneur, David Ofori Emmanuel, shares some of his struggles with us.
At Medbox, what we do is we help chronic and diabetic patients carefully manage their body vitals and medications. Funding is one of the greatest challenges that entrepreneurs have, because as a startup, you need a lot of funds to be able to regulate and operate. Unlike big businesses, they have other ventures that they can look into, but startups need a lot of money to be able to enter into various ventures, and it's part of our challenges.
So apart from funding, are there other challenges that you are facing?
Yes, they are. So as a startup, you need to be introduced to a lot of stakeholders to be able to help you build your business. And I think here in Ghana, most of the stakeholders don't really open up for entrepreneurs or startups to be able to look into how they can help them. And I think that is where we lack. Getting in touch with stakeholders and opening up to support is very small.
There are many institutions that are offering SMEs and small businesses various grants. I know of MTN, I know Societe Generale has a grant, and then there's the Africa Prize for Engineering Innovation, of which you have been a participant. What other solutions, what other ways can we help businesses, small businesses and entrepreneurs in the country to sustain their businesses and scale up?
I think one of the things that can really help is partnership. Businesses, big businesses like other big stakeholders can partner with small and upcoming startups and to be able to open up and hold their hands into the big market, because startups don't really have the strength to be able to survive alone. They need partners that can help them scale up and also increase sales. So if you have stakeholders helping you, you move faster than moving alone.
Obed Zah, another entrepreneur, has had to rely on partnerships with other businesses to gain access to markets.
So I think every entrepreneur in Ghana has challenges. Yeah, like I also have challenges as an entrepreneur in Ghana. We are into water management solutions in Ghana. It is our aim that everybody gets access to water all year round in Ghana, in Africa as well. So, for example, access to market is not that open. We're trying to leverage on strategic partnership with stakeholders to get access to our market. Funding, yes, funding is also another challenge that we are facing, especially for those of us who are still in the startup space. We have different levels of businesses, business growth, but those of us in the startup space, it's not that easy to get access to funding. Yeah, so I believe that is really a major challenge that entrepreneurs are facing in this country.
David Ofori Emmanuel refutes claims that most entrepreneurs aren't developing concepts or solutions that tackle pressing social issues.
every business has a chance of, winning or trying to survive. It depends on the structure or the procedure entrepreneurs try to use in terms of building businesses up. And I think every business also need wins and startup funding and stakeholders to be able to, shift and also redefine the idea of the business. Because when you have a business idea, you start up, you need to redefine it to fit a specific market. So you cannot just say, okay, this business doesn't really work. Sometimes you need to redefine yourself, change the market size, try a different geographical space for you to be able to strive. So most of the Ghanaian entrepreneurs create ideas, but then they need a specific market, and these stakeholders can also help us get into the market. So what we are trying to do is currently trying to build a very operational business that can allow other engineers from the universities to be able to fit in directly. What we do, we also have training procedures or training documentation for newly people coming in, to be able to learn, because on the job you need a lot of skills, and people coming out from these institutions or the universities are not really skilled to fit, but we want to bring them on board. So how do we do that? We have training sections on our program or in a company that allows them to be able to learn on the job so that they can create value for the company. I want to use this opportunity to also let my other entrepreneurs out there to also look at the Royal Academy of Engineering and Africa Prize for Innovation. They have a very good program for entrepreneurs in Africa to be able to expand in terms of business operations and also how to create a very scalable business.
Obed tells me that in order to contribute to economic progress, the government and policymakers need to find additional ways to assist local startups in expanding and becoming multinational corporations.
The major stakeholders, the policymakers and the decision makers should do more to reach out to young businesses or entrepreneurs in Ghana. In other words, to publicize their activities and then the good things that they're offering young businesses in Ghana more. There should be more publicity on that. In addition, existing businesses that have actually taken deep root should be willing to adopt smaller businesses and then also nurture and provide some sort of mentorship for them to grow. It's not just enough to look at the small and then the medium enterprises, but then also looking at those in the startup stage, those that are in the seed stage, would also help this country a lot in addressing our challenges. I have personally not met businesses that are not really meeting a demand or a problem in this country. But what I know is that most of these young businesses are dying off because of the challenge that they are going through and then the various setbacks that they have to go through. That is why they are folding up. But for all the business and then my network that I've seen, everybody is trying to at least address a challenge that would impact people in this country. Those that I've met have a ready market here in Ghana, and then they are also doing all that it is in their power to at least market that which they have to the general public. But for those of us in the seed stage and also in the startup stage, what I've also realized is that although there might be a demand for your product, they do not have the resources to actually produce to meet that demand, and that is what is really stressing such young businesses out. So you could see that a young entrepreneur has received an order for maybe 100 or 50, and then he doesn't have the capacity to produce that. He gets frustrated, and that makes him lose credibility in other stuff in the market. Then the enterprise decides to give up. Yeah. So from my side, like I said, I've come across a lot of people who are producing things that are impactful in Ghana's market, and then people need them.
From your perspective, would you say there's a ready market for most of the products and services that entrepreneurs in Ghana come out with? And if there's not, do you think entrepreneurs are doing enough to market their products locally?
Well, in terms of market, there is. You just have to be strategic in what kind of product you are bringing out and what kind of solution you are bringing out, and be able to narrow down the specific. I think what most entrepreneurs, the mistake we create is that we try to have a very big market expectation, but sometimes you don't need a really big market. You need a very small, narrow paying market that can be able to make your business valuable.
As an entrepreneur, what measures or strategies are you exploring to help you meet international standards, I would say, so that you can be able to export your product or service?
So I would say the Royal Academy of Engineering Africa Prize for Engineering Innovations has been one of the tools we are using to make sure that we be able to do things that are internationally accepted in this country. So for instance, So such programs, right, apart from the Royal Academy of Engineering, we are also looking at strategic partnership with existing businesses and existing agencies globally to help us reach the market target, or to even have some sort of international certifications for our products right here in Ghana. So these are the two things that we are doing: strategic partnership and then leveraging on our network to get to the next level.
These are some of the challenges that entrepreneurs in Ghana are currently facing. They've listed a number of them: access to funding and access to markets. So the question is, should we really leave Ghana's unemployment situation in the hands of the teeming youth? For Joy Business, Jesse Magbakbu.
Welcome back on the AM show after AM Business. The food suppliers have had their say, but it appears in this instance, government will have its way. Who knows? There's also that topical conversation, two-pronged conversation. First off, on that leaked tape, whether manufactured or real. And then again, the bit about some 60,000 Burkinabes being sent back to their country. Well, what are your thoughts on all of those matters? We also started the discussion this morning on some very topical matters in the course of the news review. What do you make of these issues? You can start by calling that number 0302 211 691. It's rolling at the bottom of your screen, 0302 211 691. For me, if you asked me, this leaked tape situation, I mean, it could be harmless. It could be innocuous, in which case, you know, we could just get to the bottom of it and find out that, oh, there's nothing to it. In fact, it wasn't real. It was deep fake or something. Then we can get past it. But we shouldn't throw it in the dustbin, as has been suggested from some quarters. We have to get to the bottom of the matter because it is a national security concern. I feel that we ought to get to the bottom of it. And that is corroborated by the likes of the gentleman I've spoken to this morning, Professor Kwesi Annan of the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center, and Superintendent Peter Lansheni Tobu, retired. But what is your take? We're offering you this opportunity now to share your thoughts with us. So take advantage of it. Let me just check for some of the messages that I saw some of you sharing in the course of discussions. Let me see whether I can find some of them to bring to the fore as we wait for your comments. So let me just get here. As of this point, where are the comments? Where are the comments? Where are the comments? Where are the comments? So I can read them. Okay, so my feed has stalled, and I'll just have to get to this other end to see whether I can get some of the comments. I saw some of you sharing your thoughts on George Akuffo Dampare and the yeoman's job he is doing, and how you want him to continue on that trajectory. I'm just trying to find it so I can read those comments. All right. We have a caller from Sotum. Bernard. Is it Bernard?
Bernard, yes.
Quick thoughts, Bernard.
Yes. In fact, I've been hearing what the suppliers are going through. Mm-hmm. It's a very sad news. In fact, some of them are not even able to walk properly because they don't have money to buy medicine, while they've used their money to support the government, and the government cannot pay them. It's a very sad news to see those things going on, and the government officials are enjoying to the tune of buying a luxurious car and living in. I feel very sad for them. We are pleading with the government at least to do something to resolve the issue. If not in full payment, at least half for the time being, so that they can also have some relief.
Right.
That's my appeal to the government.
Bernard, thank you so much for calling from Sotom. I believe this is the first time we've spoken to you. Thank you for calling. They are not so happy with the part payment, though. They say they want full payment. It's been a year, 2022, nothing was paid. And apparently, some 238 million was paid by the education minister to the buffer stock company. The question is, where did that money end up? They've been told, per sources, that the buffer stock company had some indebtedness and they had used the money. While we await other calls, I've gone to the feed now when we're having that IGP Dampare conversation, and DJ Omale says, Ghana and pull him down. IGP Dr. Ekufu Dampare is doing a great job, so it will be difficult to remove him. Then there's Musa Abattoir, who says, you're citing someone else we've not spoken to, but you say, I essentially agree with the suggestion made so far that the investigation should be instituted to get the unscrupulous guys out of the police service. We do not know that for sure, so you cannot refer to them as unscrupulous for now. Abraham Kwao says, sometimes those who have skeletons in their closet are the very people who come after you. But when it happens that way, you, the one they seek to victimize, can only know the motive behind and make it public. I'll be getting to more of your comments. We have Emmanuel from Koforidua. Good morning.
Good morning. My brother, looking at the situation at hand, I am very sad, because when you look at the number of the ladies and the gentlemen out there and the suffering they're going through, and the fact that, they have gone to borrow money, and after spending all this money to project some of the programs of the government by feeding the children, and at the end of the day, when it's time to pay them back, it becomes a struggle. And look at their situation and their conditions. But in most cases, sometimes I worry, because an issue of this nature must also bring in the president's concern. Sometimes we're supposed to see the government also coming to even say something. But in most critical issues like this, we don't hear anything from the president. And I'm like, how? How can this happen to these people for one good year? And I think the gentleman at the studio was saying that some of them are even going to court. They are being dragged by their creditors. And yet everybody's quiet. The government is always playing the drama of, we don't have money, but when it is about election, the 2 by-elections that we've had, look at the number of, the money, the resources that went into it. And look at these people. In fact, Ghana is running into a ditch, and we need to do something. My brother, thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us with your thoughts. Just to wrap with these comments, Adam Fuseni says, Dampare is a good guy. Please leave the political intimidation and let him do proper policing. And Newton Addy says, very sad, this beautiful country of ours. We don't like good things. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah is gone, and Dampare too, they are doing the same thing. Okay, interesting comparison there. But this has been another installment of the AM show. With me, the Lone Ranger, Benjamin Akakpo. Yes, I've been here throughout these 4 hours. It's been exciting coming your way. But it's time now for me to knock off and let the Joy News Desk crew come through. They'll be serving you the latest in the news. Everything you have to know right here on this network. Remember, we are fearless, independent, and credible. News Desk, up next.